Good evening. The Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convened in a regular board meeting on Thursday, March 10th, 2022, in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, located at 10300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas, at 6 p.m. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. Audience members may not participate in the meeting outside the designated agenda items for citizen participation or public comment. Disruption of the meeting by any person, including the audience, is inappropriate and will be addressed by the board president or the board's counsel as the meeting parliamentarian. Continued or repeated disruption of any board meeting by words or actions may result in removal or loss of the privilege to attend the meeting. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by sections 551.071 through 551.084 of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on Comcast Channel 16 and the district website. They will also be available as video on demand on the district website following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize our Community Leadership Committee members who are in attendance this evening. If you would stand when I call your name. Tana Lamb and Nancy Frankel. Thank you for being here. The invocation for tonight's board meeting will be given by Dr. Kevin Pigg, Senior Pastor of Crossbridge Christian Church. Crossbridge has been a loyal supporter of the district's Bus Buddy program for 13 years while partnering with Feast Elementary to provide volunteers and mentors. Dr. Pigg and Jill, his wife of 30 years, have two sons in Cy-Fair ISD schools as well. Thank you for being here tonight and for the ongoing support you and your church provide to our students and the Cy-Fair community. In addition, his church adopted Owens Elementary. Before the invocation, I would like to introduce the Cypress Lakes High School AFJROTC cadets who will be presenting the colors this evening. They are Rifle Bearer Cadet Master Sergeant Tristan Thomas, Texas Flag Carrier Cadet Airman Gavin Moore, National Flag Carrier Cadet Captain Dana Sierra Segundo, and Rifle Bearer Cadet Airman Jason Correas. These cadets present the colors to you under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Joel A. Jones, USAF, retired. Pastor?
All right, would you stand, please? I am super jazzed to be able to talk to our Lord and Creator on behalf of, I think, is the best school district in all of Texas, and I want to thank you guys for serving. I love this school district. Let's talk to our Lord about it. Heavenly Father, I want to come to you in the name of your strong Son, Jesus, and Father, I want to ask you right now for your hand of blessing on every one of these board members and on Dr. Henry. And Father, thank you so much for Dr. Henry and his leadership and the way he has guided this district for many years. And I pray for many more good years of leadership from him. I pray for tonight, for the proceedings, that that your calmness, that your peace will reign here. Father, your word says that people who are wise listen and learn. And this is what the school district is all about. We're all about learning. And Father, I pray that a lot of listening will take place tonight to honor you and to ultimately build your kingdom and bring you glory. Father, thank you so much for everything that happens here, and I pray your blessing on it. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To state under God, one and indivisible.
Please be seated. Patrons who have duly registered per policy BED local may address the board and make public comments on an agenda item during or before the board's consideration of the item. The board may allow public comment on agenda items at all meetings. The board will continue with the remaining agenda after the registered patrons have had an opportunity to speak. This month, we'll begin a new process for public comments and citizen participation. Patrons who have registered to speak this evening may see the order of names listed on the screens to your right and to your left. Before your name is called, please move forward and sit in one of the two reserved seats on the front row closest to the podium over on my right. We will now proceed with the recognitions portion of the agenda. We have many students to recognize this evening, and I'd like to ask our board members to please take turns stepping down from the dais to take pictures with our students. Yep. Prior to proceeding with the recognitions, we will have our public comments. The first to speak is Julie Ricks.
Good evening. The foundation of our culture is God, family, and American patriotism. A radical ideology has been introduced in our schools through leadership and a wicked agenda. A library contract for $2.8 million in material unable to specifically identify is unacceptable and very concerning, considering the known material permitted for discussion in human sexuality unit as part of science class. The subject and materials in this unit are not a focus of academics and oversteps the bounds of school authority. A good rule is anything controversial that requires parents' permission is an automatic no. Do not attempt to bypass parents as indicated in some material except in the signature of a trusted adult, giving parental authority to an unknown. Wrong. The excuse to warrant teaching sexuality to our children is protecting from STDs, preventing pregnancy, but the reality is that it's promoting a alternative lifestyle and equipping students for sexual promiscuity. Teaching sexuality beginning at 4th grade onward, guys in science curriculum must stop immediately.
Ms. Ricks, this is about the library books. Do we have a
Yes.
curriculum? But I don't think we have the human sexuality curriculum on the agenda. So if you could reserve your
It's
comments
coming
to the
through
purchasing.
the library books. It has to have a root somewhere. It comes
You were
from somewhere.
talking about the curriculum. So if you could limit your remarks to the library book purchase, the agenda item.
I don't know where these came from if it wasn't a library book purchase. But anyway, teaching 7th graders oral, anal, vaginal, and outer core sex and having a mandatory
Again,
test
ma'am,
is
you're talking about
appalling
curriculum, the
and
human sexuality
reprehensible.
curriculum. I'm asking you to put your comments toward what you've actually signed up for, which is the library book.
I am talking about it. I'm talking about the material these kids are given and being taught. I don't see
The
any
library books are
conflict
not
there.
on, the curriculum
I'm bringing
is
to
not
light
on.
what is
Thank
being.
you so much for your time.
I would like to finish. I would like my 2 minutes.
If you will stay on topic, ma'am, then you can speak.
7th grade students at Blau are being taught sexuality unit by a male teacher.
Okay, ma'am, again, thank you for your time. You're done. Thank you for your time. You're done. No, you're off topic. I've asked you twice. This is about library
This
book
is the
expenditure.
topic. This
And
is-
anyone who's in
what-
the
how does
audience,
it-
I need you to be quiet. This conversation doesn't involve you, and if you can't be quiet, you'll be asked to leave. Ma'am?
Okay, why has the celebration of Christmas been canceled at school, but a
Right,
bizarre
ma'am,
dress
that has
up day
nothing
is
to do
celebrated?
with library books. Thank you so much for your time. I'm
It's
going to need you to
offensive
take
and
your
not
seat.
tolerated.
Thank you so much.
So as a reminder, public comments are on agenda items.
I don't know who gets this, but I want somebody to have it on record of all that.
Certainly, you're welcome to share anything with the board, and I can make copies for you if you would like.
No, this is a copy for the board. Thank you.
That's what I meant.
The next person to speak is Ryan Heath.
How you guys doing? My name's Ryan. I'm speaking on agenda item 7A. There is a glaring need to reward, retain, and recruit teachers right now, anecdotally evidenced by my 6th grader having now 2 long-term subs for the rest of the year. The TIA purports to tackle this. Even before COVID, through volunteering, I saw firsthand all that teachers have to navigate before even getting to the lessons, and I know it's become exponentially more difficult. I worry that the TIA will add to the workload and mental load, but I also know that those who are in the classroom all year can really be the ones who can best say how they can be rewarded, retained, or recruited. This fall, I was part of a labor group who canvassed the CFISD community, asking what education-specific issues mattered most to folks. Overwhelmingly, it was teacher pay and appreciation, that they needed more respect, understanding, assistance, and compensation. A large part of our community understands this, but no one more than our teachers. Any incentive program or task force should largely rely on teacher input. I know that the marching orders are out there to dismantle and destroy public ed from within, and wow, that's terrible. But on top of that, lately, I've seen people in this community and arena actively extending this to trying to dismantle and destroy individual teachers, and that is absolutely reprehensible. Teachers are superheroes. They should be recognized because they are exemplary and are masters of their profession. Teachers who have to stay home with their kid who has COVID are exemplary. Black teachers are exemplary. Teachers navigating our kids through these times are masters. Teachers who try to brighten the students' day by dressing up for a campus costume day are masters. They're superheroes who should be recognized as such. And I hope that the TIA adequately does this. To the board and community, please listen to, appreciate, and respect these wonderful humans. The retention will follow. Thank you. Have a great spring break.
The next person to speak is Monica Dean.
I am speaking on agenda item 9D2 about vendors. At the last working session, the process of pulling a book from the library was briefly mentioned. I encourage parents to look up Instructional Resources Policy EF Local under the TASB policy link. When I spoke in January, I read the summary of a book that was provided online and then some graphic subject matter found in the book in order to illustrate that these reviews are not reliable to parents and students. Who should be held accountable when these types of books find their way to our innocent children? Since this list of vendors is quite extensive, if Cyfair sees a pattern where books are repeatedly being pulled from a specific vendor and/or vendors, will Cyfair put them on notice and/or cease to do business with them? The book titled Flamer by Mike Curato, published in 2020, available at various schools, contains graphic images, obscene language, and other inappropriate materials such as suicide imagery. I don't know what specific vendor this book came from. However, one of the vendors, Blue Willow Bookshop, which is on the list, has this book highlighted as a staff pick on their website. So if it gets past a vendor such as this, how does it get past the librarian? How are we as parents supposed to rely on these vendors and book summaries in our libraries if they're getting past these two main points of entry? I enjoyed volunteering for many years in the Cypher libraries, as well as working many book fairs. So to see this harmful content infiltrating the libraries is disheartening and disturbing. This isn't about book banning. This is about challenging and or removing books that are sexually explicit or that contain age-inappropriate content, which children can access often without parental consent and are in violation of the law. What safeguards does Cyfair currently have or can put in place to apply to these vendors to protect students from dangerous content? Thank you.
The next person to speak is Dr. Tara Cummings.
Hi, I'm going to speak on the teacher incentive allotment. I'm a first-generation college student who went on to earn a PhD. I'm a leader in my field, and I am the proud product of public education. As my shirt reads, public school made me. And now public school is making my two kids. I trust my kids' teachers implicitly. I respect them as experts in their field. I am deeply grateful for them, and I don't want to lose them. I understand that CFISD takes retention seriously and has already implemented measures accordingly. Thank you. Our teachers and staff need more, though, both to retain them and to treat them with the dignity that they deserve. And so the teacher incentive allotment. Honestly, I'm at a loss. I've read and reread all about it, and still I'm confused. It seems to me, a reasonably intelligent person with a PhD, that the process outlined by the state is unnecessarily complex. It asks teachers to jump through a bunch of convoluted, time-consuming, and labor-intensive hoops, and that is the opposite of what teachers need and deserve. As such, I hope I learn later this evening that the district has taken the initiative to develop a local designation system that is relevant, equitable, and achievable, such that all of our outstanding educators are able to earn these funds. I also urge the district to be mindful, equitable, and just in how they define and determine teachers' performance for the TIA. Historically, the practice of tying teachers' compensation to their performance in terms of student outcomes has been beyond problematic. We already know from years and years of educational research that typical performance metrics for teachers are inequitable and only further the burden and widen the gap for our most vulnerable students. In order to ensure that any local designation system does not contribute to widening inequities, the district ought to also implement the recommendations from the equity audit. Furthermore, the district ought to pay teachers well on the front end, period. Provide quality, affordable benefits. Compensate them for the work that they complete outside of their contract hours. Trust them to do their jobs and respect them by not micromanaging them. Reduce the amount of administrative, non-imperative tasks that consume their time and their souls. I don't know exactly how to retain teachers and staff, but it doesn't take a PhD to recognize that the state's outlined system ain't it. I know that we care about retaining our amazing educators.
Please wrap up your
and
comments.
I look forward to hearing the plan tonight. Thank you.
Just as a reminder, the yellow light will come on when you have 30 seconds left. When it starts to beep, I will ask you to summarize your comments. Our next speaker is Leslie Gilmart.
Good evening. I'm speaking on agenda item 7A, the teacher incentive allotment. Thank you for assembling a planning committee that includes teachers for this initiative. I know surveys have gone out to staff inviting their feedback, and despite CFISD's efforts, I'm not sure most teachers know enough about this to have an informed opinion. Teachers have been juggling so much over the past couple of years, it's difficult to focus on much beyond surviving. I'm concerned by the premise of TIA, Teachers do not owe Texas more labor to earn a payout that with the local incentive would not be guaranteed. Teachers have already earned a significant pay raise. The pandemic has put so much strain on teachers that I can't imagine many of them will have the bandwidth to invest energy in TIA. Most teachers were already working well beyond their contract time pre-COVID. The state should focus on fair compensation across the board. I'm also concerned about the resources that will go into implementing TIA. We will see further strain on personnel. Our administrators who appraise teachers don't have time for a more complex appraisal process. Our district administrators have other pressing needs to attend to. I propose that we continue with the national board certification portion of TIA and abandon the rest. If that's not possible, then please continue getting teacher and appraiser feedback on this initiative. Make the system as streamlined and easy as possible. Advocate to every state lawmaker to fund districts so we can pay teachers and paraprofessionals more. Free up more work time for teachers within their contract hours. Pay teachers for the work they do outside contract hours, including off-contract professional development. If that's not possible, then please eliminate the off-contract PD requirement. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Angela Martin Greer.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the board for the opportunity to speak. As a Cy-Fair resident and parent of a former Cy-Fair student, I'd like to comment on Agenda Item 7B, the written report on the 2022 summer school plans for elementary, middle, and high school, specifically the summer school being funded without parents having to pay. I'm in support of this measure. In light of the challenges currently facing our community and district, learning loss, income loss, physical and mental health concerns, largely due to the pandemic, families not being burdened with the expense of summer school is an important way that Cy-Fair can support families. I appreciate the board recognizing this and taking the steps necessary to ensure that all students have access to summer school, regardless of their ability to pay. Given the likelihood that making up for pandemic-related learning loss will be the focus for several years to come, I'd like to go a step further and ask the board to continue offering summer school at no cost to parents for this foreseeable future. Thank you.
Prior to our recognitions, Board Member Gilbert Sarabia will read our vision and mission statements.
Welcome, everybody. Our vision at CFISD is formed from the acronym LEAD, to learn, empower, achieve, dream, lead. Our mission is to maximize every student's potential through rigorous and relevant learning experiences, preparing students to be 21st century global leaders.
We have scouts with us this evening. When I call your name, please stand. From troop number 533, Sean McMahon and Quinn McMahon. Would you please stand? Thank you for being here. Now the recognitions portion of the agenda. We have many students to recognize this evening, and I'll be asking our board members to step down, I'll call you by name, to take pictures with our students. The board will recognize CFISD swimmers earning a state title at the UIL State Swim Meet and the Texas Swim Coach of the Year. I would like Luke Scanlon and Scott Henry to step down to help congratulate our swimmers. Presenting will be Ray Cepeda and Jonathan Mayer.
Tell you what, I'm
super fired up to be here tonight and super proud to be associated with this wonderful school district. You know, when I kind of turned around during some of the comments and to see so many outstanding young people, it really makes my heart happy. And especially tonight to recognize some outstanding swimmers and athletes, it's a true joy and pleasure. So, Mr. Jackson, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry, it's my extreme pleasure to be here tonight representing our athletics department to present to you a group of athletes and coaches that achieved to the absolute highest levels in UIL competition in boys and girls swimming at the UIL State Swim Meet held on the campus of the University of Texas. It pains me to say that as an Aggie on Saturday, February the 19th. We sent the largest delegation of aquatic athletes that I think that we've ever had in at least my 10 years of being here, when we sent 40 athletes to compete on behalf of CFISD. And the athletes that we are honoring tonight are athletes that finished either first or second at that meet. So I'm going to start off with Emma Kinsey. Emma is a junior at Bridgeland High School. Emma, if you could stand up and come to the front here. She was the gold medalist in the 100-yard breaststroke. Emma had a great, and I want to make sure I get this right, junior season at Bridgeland. So it's very exciting to us that she's going to be back with us competing next year for the Bears. I would ask, I don't think that Mr. Smith is with us tonight, her principal, but I do know that we have her coach, Bob Perkins, is here. Bob, if you could stand, please, to be recognized. And I believe Emma's parents are here. So if you guys could stand to be recognized as well. We're very proud of Emma Kinsey from Bridgeland. All right, this kind of pains me to introduce our next our next swimmer, senior Hayden Miller from Cy Creek High School. Hayden was a gold medalist in the 200 and the 500-yard freestyle, double gold medalist here at the state swim meet. And not only did she win 2 gold medals, she also set a new Class 6A state record in the 500-yard freestyle. One of the things that I guess I would say is I reflected back in Hayden's accomplishments here. She also won a gold medal as a freshman, and we presented her at a board meeting quite a long time ago. And one of the things I enjoyed was looking at that picture of Hayden then and seeing her compete now. She truly has grown up. It's been a true joy to see you compete over the past 4 years, Hayden, for us. I would say she's got her 2 coaches here, Jeff Chandler and Emily Laurel. If you guys would stand. And I know Mom is with her tonight too, so if you would stand as well to be recognized. I know that Ms. Snookhouse could not be here tonight, but she did reach out to me personally and say that she is super proud of you, and I know that you know that. So I present to you tonight Hayden Miller, double gold medalist from Cy Creek High School. Thank you, Hayden. Thanks for everything. Up next, junior Benjamin Shaw from Cy Woods High School. Ben was a gold medalist in the 50-yard freestyle and a silver medalist in the 100-yard freestyle. I think we barely missed out on that gold medal. He has been a fixture on the medal podium for us the last few years and for Cy Woods High School. Also a junior at Cy Woods, so we're really, really excited to have him back competing for the Wildcats next year. I do know Mom and Dad are here. If you guys could stand up to be recognized. Do not think that Mr. Kinninger could be with us tonight, but super proud of Ben and thankful that he's going to be back with us. He has won many, I think, district swimming athletes of the year, also regional athlete of the year. So I present to you tonight, Benjamin Shaw. We're so proud of you. And you notice I didn't introduce his coach because I'm going to do that now because we're honoring him tonight. Michael Marucci, if you can stand up. Michael's the head swim coach for Cy Woods High School. He's Ben's coach. And Mike was recognized at the UIL State Meet as the 2020-21 Texas State Coach of the Year by the National Federation of High School Sports. So he was presented with special recognition at the state meet. Michael has done a tremendous job in his time as the head coach of the Wildcats. His team, which Ben was a part of, finished third at state during the 2021 school year. Tremendous accomplishment, had another great season this year. Michael has done a great job, and we're so proud of you, Michael, and really appreciative that we're getting a chance to honor you tonight. So as we conclude this portion of at least my portion of the board meeting, again, I just want to thank these wonderful athletes and tremendous coaches for representing us. Not only are they great athletes, but I've done a little bit of homework. They're great students too. So they do everything the right way. So thank you guys. Cypher ISD is very, very proud of you. And we look forward, at least Ben and Emma, to see you compete for us next year. Thank you.
The board will recognize the Cypress Woods High School Audio-Video Production Program, CW Media, for earning first place at the STN National Conference. I would ask board members Julie Heineman and Gilbert Sarabia to step down to help with honoring.
President Jackson, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry, it is a pleasure to present to you this evening audio-video production students who recently received national recognition. The Cypress Woods Audio Video Production Program, CW Media, competed at the National Student Television Network Conference February 17th through 21st in Long Beach, California. STN recognizes excellence in broadcast journalism, filmmaking, and multimedia. With more than 2,200 participants, the Cypress Woods Wildcats, led by teacher Lori Andrade, took first place in the short film category. The groups of James Darden, Jacob Arango, and Abe Garcia were tasked to create and edit a film in just 6 hours. This is the first time in CFISD history that a school has won at the STN conference. And now we would like you to meet the talent behind the award-winning film. As I call your name, please come forward. James Darden III. Jacob Arango. And the director, cinematographer on the film, Abe Garcia. Thank you again for supporting these students and our AVP program. Thank you.
The board will now recognize students whose project won Grand Champion or Reserve Grand Champion at the 28th Annual CFISD Livestock Show. Stepping down from the podium will be Debbie Blackshear and Dr. Natalie Blassingame and myself to help recognize our award-winning students.
Mr. Jackson, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Henry, it is a true pleasure to present to you this evening students earning Grand Champion or Reserve Champion awards. The 28th Annual CFISD Livestock Show and Sale was held February 1st through 4th, at which students from across the district competed in multiple categories. The students being recognized tonight represent countless hours of hard work and dedication towards making their project worthy of being named a champion. I would now like to introduce the 2022 champions. As I call your name, please come forward. You can come forward, have your picture, and then if you'll just stand to the side so we can do a group picture at the end. Okay? So with us tonight, Fatima Carranza, Grand Champion Ag Mechanics. Bryce. This was actually a group project. Let me go ahead and get the other two up here. Bryce Hubbard and Ariana Rincon. All three of these are from Cypress Park, a group project for Grand Champion Ag Mechanics. Okay, next up, Daniel Rhodes.
Denise, before you go on, I know that their principal is here.
Oh.
Mr. Hecker, so I want him to stand up and be acknowledged back there.
Sure. Yes, as we go along, of those who are here, you can go ahead and stand up, and then otherwise at the end, I'll have you all stand up as well.
Denise, are there any parents? Other parents?
I was going to do them all at the end, but if you want to do them individually, we have quite a few students. I can do that as we go. You want to do it individually? Do you have any parents with you here tonight? And teachers, I know you have, I believe your teacher, your principal, parents, anyone here? Yes? I'm all about celebrating. We have lots to cheer about in CFISD. Okay, next up, Daniel Rhodes from Bridgeland High School, Grand Champion Breeding Rabbits. While Daniel's coming up, I know we have some Bridgeland contingency and family in the crowd. You want to stand so we can appreciate you as well. I know his teachers are here. I see them all in force. Thank you for your support. Okay, Emily Taylor from Cypress Woods, Grand Champion Horticulture and Reserve Champion Turkey. Do we have any family, Cy Woods people here? Thank you for your support. Abigail Klein from Cypress Falls High School, Grand Champion Lamb. I know we have Cy Falls contingency. Any family? Yes, thank you for your support. Haley Gordon, also from Cypress Park, Grand Champion Steer Showmanship. Mr. Hecker, we can applaud you again. Do we have any family? And I know we have her teacher is here. Thank you for showing your support. Kira Quintero from Cypress Ranch, Grand Champion Swine Showmanship. Family, friends, Cypress Ranch staff, okay? Again, thank you for supporting Kira. Carson Kraus from Bridgeland High School, Grand Champion Turkey. Bridgeland, do we have any family here with Carson? Okay, thank you all for your support. Audrey Grace Jordan from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Breeding Rabbits. I know her teachers are here. You have family here as well. Any Cyfair staff? Thank you for supporting Audrey. Augustus Mashinsky from Bridgeland High School, Reserve Champion Broilers. Our Bridgeland contingency, and do we have any family here with Augustus? Thank you. Kendall Crosby from Cypress Woods High School, Reserve Champion Goat. Family campus support for Kendall. If you are here, please stand. Thank you for your support. You'll find often these are family projects. It takes a village. Lots of hours. Kylie Carter from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Heifer. Her family, Cyfair support. Again, thank you for supporting. Alyssa Simpson from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Heifer Showmanship. Addison Breland from Cypress Woods, Reserve Champion Horticulture. Cypress Woods staff, family of Addison, thank you for your support. Lauren Duncan from Bridgeland High School, Reserve Champion Rabbit. Thank you. Our Bridgeland contingency, and do we have any family here with Lauren? Thank you for your support. Kylie Emerson from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Steer Showmanship. Hey, anyone here from I know Cyfair is here. Kylie, do you have family here? Over here. Thank you. Brandon Blackshear from Cypress Ranch High School, Reserve Champion Swine. Cypress Ranch staff, I know we have some family up here. Do we have any other additional family? Haley Polson, also from Cypress Ranch, Reserve Champion Swine Showmanship. All right, I'll let our Cy Ranch contingency stand again. And does Haley have any family with her here? Our camera crew. Did I finish did I get everyone? Okay. All right. I do have a few that I'm just going to call their names out quickly because they're down in Houston competing yet again. And so just to kind of get their name on the record, Madison Trikel, Grand Champion Broilers, Grand Champion Goat, Reserve Champion Goat Showmanship from Cy Ranch. Blake Wells from Cy Ranch, Grand Champion Goat Showmanship. Madison Ellis from Jersey Village, Grand Champion Heifer. Melissa Gayton from Cyfair, Grand Champion Heifer Showmanship. Sarah Rampy, Cy Woods, Grand Champion Lamb Showmanship. Hagan Hughes from Cy Springs, Grand Champion Rabbit. Lainey Buchanan from Cy Ranch, Grand Champion Steer, Grand Champion Swine, first time ever we've done that. Blaine Fritcher from Cypress Woods, Reserve Champion Ag Mechanics, he was part of that group. Jessica Donaldson from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Lamb, Reserve Champion Lamb Showmanship. And Carly Drews from Cyfair High School, Reserve Champion Steer. Thank you again. Oh, go ahead. We give them applause. Thank you again to the teachers, campus staff, parents, friends, community for the support you gave and continue to give these students, making them more prepared to take on whatever comes next. We'll get our group picture.
Hey, cheeseburger.
Kind of appropriate. Okay, thank you very much.
While Mr. Jackson is returning to his seat, we're going to go ahead and let the superintendent make remarks and announcements, including the honors and achievements earned by staff and students in recent weeks, and then we will take a break so our guests can take pictures and leave if they like.
And my honors and achievements are very brief. CFISD audio video production students, in collaboration with our district video production team, recently compiled a highlight of CFISD happenings in the month of February. Please enjoy this brief video that illustrates how CFISD is bringing out the best. The UIL Wrestling State Championships were held February 18th and 19th at our very own Berry Center. Cypress Ranch High School senior Xavier Harrell won state runner-up in the Class 6A 120-pound division to lead all CFISD wrestlers. At the meet, Christopher Potter, Cypress Ranch head coach, was named the Girls Wrestling Head Coach of the Year by the Texas High School Wrestling Coaches Association. And Cypress Ranch assistant Evroy Thompson was named the state's top assistant coach. At the Texas School Public Relations Association Conference on February 23rd, the CFISD Communications Department won a record 33 Gold Star Awards, 2 Crystal Commendation Certificates of Merit, and 1 Platinum Award Certificate of Merit, competing against other districts across the state. In addition, 4 Best of Category awards were earned. Website, 92 new campus websites, Jennifer Ongoko. Social media campaign, Superhero Subs Are Essential, Joel Weckerly. Video news information, CFISD 360 show, Vanessa Coach, and CFISD AVP students. Photo and sports, playoff intensity at a Bridgeland High School football game by Angel Verdejo. We recently selected a new principal for elementary number 57, so I will turn it over to Roy Garcia for that introduction.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. President Jackson and Board of Trustees, it is always exciting when we introduce a principal to you and to the CFISD community. Tonight we are introducing our new principal for elementary number 57, which is under construction and located in the Parkland Village section of the Bridgeland community. The 2-story campus is set to open in August of 2022. I am happy to introduce Laura-Ann Novoskinski as the first principal for elementary number 57. Round of applause would be okay. I will give a brief overview of Laura-Ann's professional experience and then provide her the opportunity to address the board and introduce any family members she may have in the audience. Laura-Ann has 28 years of experience in education, serving 2 years in North Carolina before joining the CFISD family as a 3rd grade teacher at Bain Elementary. She also taught at Alt Elementary as a 4th grade teacher prior to serving a 1-year mid-management internship for the district. Her campus administrative experience consists of serving as an assistant principal for 16 years and a principal for 7 years. She was an assistant principal on the inaugural staff at Farney Elementary and an assistant principal at both Walker and Andre Elementary. Laura-Ann has been the principal at Andre the past 7 years. In these 7 years, she has helped Andre become the only Microsoft certified campus in the district and piloted one of the 2 Spanish action-based learning labs in the district. Laura Ann earned her Bachelor of Science in Education from Baylor University and her Master of Education in Administration from the University of St. Thomas. She is currently a doctoral candidate at Texas A&M University. Go ahead, Mr. Zepeda. She is a participant in the statewide Principals Institute, a National Association of Elementary School Principals nationally certified mentor, and participated in the Deloitte University Courageous Principal Leadership Development Program. Laura Ann and her husband Leonard have 3 sons, Alex, Colby, and Mason. Alex and Colby both graduated from Cypress Ranch High School and are business majors at Baylor University. Mason is a junior at Cypress Ranch and a future music major. When Laura Ann is not working, she enjoys traveling with family, reading, photography, scrapbooking, and most importantly, being a band mom. Please join me in congratulating Laura Ann Novoskinski.
Thank you. President Jackson, Board of Trustees, Dr. Henry, thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. I am just so honored to be selected as the first principal for our newest elementary campus in CFISD. And with the campuses already within the Bridgeland community, establishing that foundation, that rich tradition of success, I'm looking forward to continuing that down that same pathway, and I'm excited about that journey and being able to collaborate with the community, with the parents, with the families, with the staff, the teachers, and the students to truly create something special. So thank you, thank you. Again, like Mr. Garcia shared, part of my family is here, my husband Leonard, and my son Colby from Baylor. My older son is not available this evening, and my younger son is at Cypress Ranch practicing the band hall. So. And I do have some peers from other campuses, Felicia Thomas, principal at Tips, who was one of my leopard friends at Andre back whenever she was counselor at Andre, and Carrie Ann Stroud is somewhere in the room over here, hello, who is also former Andre instructional specialist, now working as a primary specialist here at ISC, and also other colleagues here with me as well to support. Thank you, and to the Andre staff that are watching online. I appreciate all of you, and just thank you again for such an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Try that again. Let's go ahead and take a brief 5-minute break. Thank you. We will now proceed with board comments. Any board member may make a comment during this portion of the agenda without prior posting being required. Comment items may not pertain to the character of any student, staff, or board member and may not be discussed or deliberated upon at this meeting. Since I have a full set to my right, I'm going to start at the right end. Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. It's a good night to see such great achievements from our kiddos. So talented to see so many things that happened this past year. I know their hard work, their early mornings, and even some late nights. The sacrifice that they made, we saw tonight, were very well worth the results they made. Even the kids that weren't recognized here, I'm sure the results were very great. Since our last board meeting, I had the privilege of speaking at many different events, meeting our community and talking with teachers and staff. It's great to see the community so engaged in our kiddos, ensuring the values of our community and reflecting our district, and the best student outcomes are achieved. I know next week is spring break, and I know for many, it'll be a good time of rest and relaxation. And I hope this time will be beneficial for you to recharge and spend time with your friends and your family. I know we've been reading in the news and hearing from teachers as well about the profession of teaching. I'd like to give you, some of your teachers, some encouragement and some love. It's been said that teachers can change lives just by the mix of chalk and challenges. It's true that teachers, they are always a chalk out of the right direction, and they overcome challenges that way. Teachers do more than just that guide. They pave the way that let the children choose their own paths and become the best version of themselves in the future. From this board member and as a parent, to our wonderful teachers, to our administrators, to our janitorial staff, to our police, to our tradespeople, to our bus drivers, to our kitchen workers, to our class helpers, and every other staff member I probably missed that do so well, who are so loved and so appreciated by us. Thank you. Thank you for what you do every day. Your impact definitely does not go overlooked. It would not be the same without you for your selfless work in order to make our kids' lives so much better for what you do every day. Thank you.
Natalie?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you all to those in attendance, those watching online. Thank you for being engaged in our community and interested and willing to spend your evening guiding and directing the course of our district. I'm going to repeat that in Spanish for our families that speak Spanish. Gracias a todos que están aquí o los que están viendo por la televisión. Gracias por su interés en nuestro distrito y por ver cómo para ayudarnos en lograr lo que queremos para nuestros alumnos. I also, I'm not as eloquent as Scott on this, but I definitely want to thank our teachers, our leaders, our staff. Thank you for all that you do. Enjoy your spring break. It's been hard-earned. It's been hard-earned. I hope that you have some time to relax and refill your cups so that we can go for the last 9 weeks of school. I also had a wonderful opportunity to fill up my cup a little bit and by attending the governance camp last week in Galveston. And it was refreshing to be with other school board members and superintendents from across the state to really just see how people dive in to learn and make their districts the best place possible for students. I had the opportunity to attend sessions around the strategic planning process and how that connects with goal setting, which is a board task, and then also connecting that into superintendent evaluation. A session on the SHAC committee, which has lots of changes that are coming out from the state. Also a session on policy decision making. And also a session on really focusing on student outcomes as the target work of our school board. So it was very great connecting with others from across the state, seeing old friends that are both staff there and people that are attending as board members or superintendents. And I intend to put all that learning to work for you guys, for the district, for our kids, our citizens, our staff. I also want to mention today those amazing kiddos who we have already met, a few of them that got awarded here today, but the highlight of being at governance camp, Julie and I had the opportunity to see our students truly be highlighted. There was a day focused on student voice. A lot of the focus of the conference was to make sure we were hearing from the students and from their perspective and that they would guide and direct the work of school boards. And I would like to thank Vanessa Coach. She is the production and curriculum coordinator, and she had the team of students, and Denise Quebeca. They presented a session. Our young students were, you met one a little while ago who got awarded. Jacob Arango, but also Jadia Manakalani from Bridgeland, Ada Norman, and Ari Gilmore, also from Cy Woods. They had the audience mesmerized and really highlighting our digital communication CTE strand. You heard they won national competitions, but they were excellent and really natural. They were unscripted. They didn't have, our kids owned their content so deeply that they were able to express the learning. They talk about the curriculum, its connection, the equipment, the strands of learning over time, the layers, and they were truly inspirational, and they spoke very well to our district, our CTE work, and just our curriculum work in general, and the love and the investment of our staff. So we congratulate everyone that's involved in that. And then we have the opportunity on the agenda, as you see, we're looking at looking back at district goals, how we've accomplished those goals over the last period of time as we look at superintendent evaluation. And I just wanted to put out a comment for the public and my board colleagues. We have, there's many things we work on as far as literacy. I appreciate Dr. Henry's team for providing us some really good snapshot information around students who are progressing in their reading level, the students who are making progress, those who are not, and it's exciting to have data in order to act upon. And we also have a goal 2 in our district, which is a safe and healthy learning environment. And under that, we had a target objective this past year, which was to increase the number of students receiving face-to-face instruction by decreasing the overall number of students removed from class, with a target being to decrease actions resulting in removal from class by 50%. And I just would like to say that this is something that's a large, I'm not sure how the metrics and stuff are arrived at, but I definitely feel like as we look at this post-COVID situation in schools and the stressors and the challenges for our teachers, that I just would really like discipline to be something. We have already taken action, and I applaud our board and our president and his leadership to already take that number and our new goals into the new year. But I would really like us to take a deep dive into discipline, and so making a formal request that we put that on the board agenda for our next month so that we can begin the process of truly unpacking discipline, all the implications, all the work that we need to do to make sure our teachers in our classrooms aren't carrying all this load. Our administrators are having the support that we as a whole community are able to express our vision and our values, which indeed is a job of the school board. That's not actually the administrative task. Our job is to talk and be the listening post for our community to make sure that we capture the sentiments of our community and then challenge our administration and our team with doing that work. So I would thank you for that, receiving that request, and I really look forward to the conversation. And with that, I just want to say again, thank you. It's a privilege to serve. Know that I appreciate all the work. I wanted to mention one more project. Thank you for sharing. I don't see Ms. Cummings. Is she in the room still? Tara? Oh, okay. Will you please, the work that the kids at Woods did to raise funds for, against suicide and to really stand up and rally, it was inspirational. The fact that it was student-led and so well-attended and they were so successful, that was amazing work. And so I want to congratulate that team. And with that, I'll end my comments. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Gilbert?
Yes, welcome everybody, and for everybody still staying around here, thanks a lot. Also, I want to start off with my apologies for last month missing. I was absent, but I was at a baseball game with my team, my sophomore team I was coaching, and we're going to a very tough opponent's house in Clear Creek, and I could not get someone to sub in for me, so my apologies. But it was very difficult just to leave the boys with anybody going into a tough venue like that. So I had let the board know, and I appreciate my apologies for missing out, but I just had to stay with my boys at that time and stuff. Going back to the district, I got a chance to visit the livestock show, and of course that was fantastic. I asked Debbie a couple of years ago when we built the new show. What would you call it, Debbie?
It was a renovation.
The renovation of the arena, and unbecoming to me, Debbie had stated. I asked her this question. I'll ask her again. In the state of Texas, who exactly has this kind of venue that we can let our kids partake in?
No one.
No one. So again, our district is second to none and leaders of their innovation there of being leaders and stuff. So thank the administration for everything that they do. That was a great show. Denise Quebeca was ramrodding that show, and when I got to be there, there was so much to see, and they took me all around the venue, and I got to see different things and the champions, and it's truly an outstanding job, well done, and second to none. And the money they bring in. I was looking on my Facebook page right now, so I wanted to make sure right. I was coaching a young man from Blau to Matsky, and then all of a sudden he got into showing a particular animal in this show, and we were like, what is he doing, and why isn't he practicing with us? But he was getting up early in the morning and doing everything he had to do. Well, he wound up getting some good money to help him get into his university and his trade, and which helped him was now he's flying jets for the United States Air Force. And so, and I was just thinking about that time, and that's where he got a lot of his money to go to school and stuff. Brett Sylvie is a graduate of Cypress Creek, and very proud of that. Going back to the wrestling statement, I got a chance to go out there, and again, just amazed by what goes on throughout there. The young ladies and the young men and their teachers, and I'm learning rules. I'm walking around and asking them why they flip a card on the ground, and they're telling me why. And the parents are screaming from the stands, and it looks like we're in the Colosseum in Rome. You know, people are just screaming at it, but it's a well-run, state-of-the-art facility that we provide, and it's outstanding place. I got to see a lot of the basketball games since the last time you guys seen me. Also, I got to see some baseball throughout our beautiful fields. I was asked and honored to throw out the first pitch at Cypress Creek's baseball field, and that was very nice. Myself, Principal Snookhouse, Coach McCaig and his wife, Sherry threw better than Coach McCaig and stuff, and I had them filmed to vouch for that. But that was very nice and well done. Just another thing that our district is second to none. I got to follow the team in Los Angeles that went from Cy Woods, and that was phenomenal. And they posted great activities over there going on in Los Angeles. And the swim team, the swimmers throughout our district that we hosted regionals. I believe we hosted regionals. Is that right, Teresa? Mm-hmm. Right, regionals. And sent multiple swimmers to state. I remember when the kids used to swim, and I would see the kids at Side Creek eating breakfast when I was eating breakfast, already being at work, and they were eating breakfast after practice around 7:15. And I just asked the swimmers before they left, what time do you usually get up for practice when you have a practice in the morning, which is often? I think the young guy from Side Woods said 5 o'clock. And the young lady from Side Creek said 4:30, I live further and stuff. So they put the time in. Like anything else, they put the time in, and they're passionate about their job and their work, and you see the results. Like anything else, have it be with a academic, athletic, whatever it is, if you put the time in, you'll be rewarded and stuff. And it's nice to see that we applaud them. I told Dr. Henry up here as they were getting their accolades that we have a great district. We really have a great district to be so rounded in different activities. It's just fantastic knowing that we're part of the community and stuff. I too went to the governance conference. I got to stay there a day though, but I got some classes in, some much needed training. Saw some friends there. It's well run. Always look forward to that meeting, and the governance conference is well done and stuff. Other than that, I think I was just trying to catch up with everything. And again, my apologies for missing last time, but I just can't give up my boys to a hostile territory without support and everything else, though. But again, thank you very much.
And to my left, Lucas.
So Gilbert, I'm not sure you knew this about me, but I am a graduate of Clear Creek High School. So while I am deeply committed to Cy-Fair, I got to root for my guys over there, and it's always been hostile territory.
Yes, it's very good.
So, all right. Well, thank you everybody that's here. I want to shout out to the technology team sitting on the back row. You're here at night to make sure that we're able to do our job, and you're the unsung heroes. So I would just want to mention we appreciate you and thank you very much for everything that you guys are doing for us, sincerely. All right, so I have a few comments this evening. I had the opportunity in the last month to go visit a couple of schools, and so I was graciously invited to attend Cy Park High School and then Holmesley Elementary School. And Principal Heckler was sitting in the back row while his students were being recognized. He's gone home. I don't blame him. And so I just wanted to comment on some of the things that I saw and mention a day in the life at the schools just for the people that are watching. So at Cy Park, I noticed a classroom. And when I was doing the tour with Mr. Heckler, I noticed that there were some rock and roll, like drum set, guitar, bass, etc., in a normal classroom, not a band hall. And me being a musician, I saw it and I was like, okay, hold on. What is that class? And it was like history or something. And I said, okay, help me understand the instruments that are in the class. Because he had a full section, keyboard, drums, guitar, bass, everything. And he said, well, that's how he connects with students after school. And so he coaches a rock band of students that shows up after school to meet with him and let him teach them on how to play whatever. And so how fascinating, what a wonderful way to connect with kids off script. And it's an example of some of the dedication that we have of our teachers trying to make those personal relationships and those personal connections with the kids, because I promise you, at some point in the middle of playing one of those songs or the rehearsals, that student's probably going to ask that teacher a question about life or about character or about etc. And he's going to be he will be there in that moment to catch it, recognize it for what it is, and inspire. And so I just think it deserves special recognition for what that teacher was doing. I don't want to mention him by name, but I'm grateful. One of the things that we do as a board is that we approve things, and then the administration carries those out. And so one of the boring things would be, approvals of renovations. And so as I was walking the school, I noticed the furniture. And so this may seem like, why are we talking about furniture? But when I walked down the hall, I saw in a classroom, I saw students sitting, I saw students with elevated desks, and I saw students standing behind desks that were fully elevated. And it was at the students' discretion on how they wanted to behave in the classroom, the posture that was most comfortable for them. And I can attest in the workplace it's really helpful. It helps garner attention. If your blood sugar is crashing, to be able to stand up and be able to think and listen. So it's helpful. And so I asked Principal Hecker about it, and he mentioned that he had a chance to be involved in the selection process. And so he described what happened, and he said, well, we had all the vendors for the furniture set up at the Berry Center. And when they did, his team invited a group of students from across the district to come in and actually try out all the furniture and give their opinion. And so Principal Hecker made a comment. He said, after it was all over, he walked up and talked to the vendors, and he's like, well, how'd that go? And he said the vendors were like, oh my gosh, that was the hardest thing we've ever done. Those students were so engaged. They were asking us the really hard questions, and they were on it. They were very focused on the decision in front of them, and those students took it so seriously. It was much more challenging for the vendors than the teachers and the staff. And so I saw the evidence of the good decision that those students made in the classroom at the school I was at, because I could see learning happening. And it's those things that we equip the school district with. The school district carries out a decision. That was a great process that I just described. That's the administration carrying out a process, and they did a great job, and so we saw the benefit from it. So the next school that I was able to, and so shout out to Cy Park, go team. At Holmesley, so I then went to visit with Principal Diaz at Holmesley Elementary. I was about to walk up to the door, and then the doors opened without me, 3 feet away from the door, and I was like, what's happening? And she had set up where the students opened the door, they came out, and they had all the APs, and they were really just trying to be gracious. And as I spent my time in the school, I got to see some things that were surprising and humbling at the same time. And I'm going to try not to be emotional. One of the things that I got to see was what they called, and I'm looking for the term because I want to make sure I get it right, and I spoke with her before this. Thank you very much. You knew exactly where I was going. And so I had a chance to see the new arrival center, or the NAC, the NAC. And so for those that don't understand or not familiar with it, the NAC is where students that are from out of the country come, and they're in the school and they don't speak any English at all. Big fat zero, because they're not from this country. And so we had students from Venezuela, from Mexico, from China, from all over the world. And she had 2 classrooms at that campus, and it's a unique program to that campus. And so when I walked in, and I'm watching the education, we had a teacher, and we had 2 assistants to the teacher, 2 consultants. But when I was standing there speaking, a little boy who was in 4th grade got up and, in wonderful English, walked up without prompting. He just got up, walked over to me, put out his hand, and said, "Hi, my name is," and he gave his name. And sat down, and he was the cutest little thing. But he was bold, he was encouraged, he believed in himself, he had confidence, and it was in part to what was going on in that classroom. I was watching the education that was going down, and they made sure that the lack of a common language wasn't a deterrent to learning. And I don't really know how to explain this, but the math problems that they were working with were able to escape the limitations of language, and it worked. I was watching it work. I was watching the students be engaged. So it was fascinating. And so one of the comments that Principal Diaz made to me was, "Whatever it takes." That's her motto. And I saw that. I saw the evidence of it. And lastly, one of my favorite things to do, I have a daughter who's in 1st grade. And so when I walk into elementary school, one of my absolute favorite things to do is to go into elementary school classrooms. Because there's a common trait you will probably see, that you almost can't see the wall for all the stuff on the walls. And you see the care and the attention of the teachers that are in the classroom focused on, what do I do to answer a question for my kid? And everywhere the child looks, there's something there that's engaging, something there that's inspiring, and they can interact with things all around them. And so as I walked around the classrooms, I just saw that. I saw it at my home campus at Brunel, where my daughter goes to school. And I saw that here at Holmesley, and the teachers, in the times that were off, they were very focused on preparing for the next class and partnering with each other on how to prepare for the next class. And so, and I talked with Principal Diaz about parent engagement. And, I want to encourage, there's a couple of key messages that I want to mention, is that for our teachers, we know, we hear, we see it in the numbers, we hear that it has been a hard year. Last year was a hard year. It's an understatement. I don't mean to be trite. We just want to acknowledge that we know it's been a hard year. And for those of you that are tired, be encouraged that you will be heard by your students. In my teaching experience, it always boiled down to me having a relationship with the kids. And I don't mean to say the word kid disrespectfully, my relationship with the students. And I had students who chose to be leaders in the classroom, and I had students who despised being in the classroom. There was something going on at home, there were issues that were happening that were outside the schools altogether, so we always wrestled with both. That was common, and every teacher goes through that. They've got students who want to be there, students who don't want to be there. And you've got to find a way to connect with all of them. The connection that we form with our students gives us the right to hold them to expectations. And it's those expectations that will often unlock the things that they think are constraining them, the things that they think are holding them back. So I want to encourage our teachers that personal connection that you make, all the art on the walls, all the care they put in the classroom, all the freedom that Principal Hecker encourages at his high school to have equipment in the classroom to engage with his kids in a new way. Those relationships are the fundamental why of Cypher ISD being great. Because that gives us the right to connect with our kids. And I promise you, teachers, I know that we've all had our trials in the last year, but as you continue to be focused and diligent and work on those connections, your students will hear you. And it may not be in your classroom, it may be the next year, but they will hear you and they will remember and they will turn the corner. So I want to encourage our teachers who are listening. And for our students, we're backing you. When you need help, please ask. Your teachers, the thing that is most favorite of all is that if you ask for help, your teachers will move heaven and earth to help. Oddly enough, not oddly enough, I've got a brief story, but before I get to that, for our students, this phase of your life, as you choose to explore a field, a skill, academic, athletic, sports disciplines, you have teachers around you that want to lift you up. And as a student, you have this unique attribute in your life that you won't have at any other time, of favor, where you will have favor to go through a door that you cannot go through at any other time in your life. You can contact a professional and say, I'd like to talk to you about your job. And that professional will say, absolutely, what time would you like to come? You can go reach out to somebody and ask them for help, and they will open doors for you. When I'm interviewing kids for college, I see it all the time. And so, as a matter of fact, we just now hired in my firm an intern who he's going to intern with my company upon graduation. He's in his last semester at U of H. He's about to graduate. And we've hired him to go to full-time, but he began interning at IT departments when he was in high school as a sophomore. So over the summer, he had the wisdom and the foresight, while he was still in high school, to go ahead and intern at every company that he could get into. And do you think that gave him an edge? The vision? He was able to outpace possibly more qualified candidates because he had the vision, and he took creativity, and he took responsibility for his own learning path. And so I want to encourage the students that you have unique favor at this point in your life, and to please use it. Please ask for help, and we will come. And then lastly, for our parents, we are your partner in educating your child. We take our role extremely seriously. Everybody up here, we take our role extremely seriously. Everybody behind us that we don't see, people in the back row, we take our role in partnering with you to educate your child very seriously. We don't parent your child, and don't mean that in a rude way, but we understand our part, and we want to do that part, and we are committed to it. And so parent involvement is a strong indicator for positive student outcomes. It's one of the things that's very important. Our children seeing the parents in the school. As an example of parent involvement, when I was with Principal Diaz, she talked about ways that her community engaged. And she talked about coming back from COVID this year. She had a PTO meeting and she wasn't really sure how it was going to go. And so in the PTO meeting that she attended, she said the cafeteria was full. It was absolutely full. She couldn't believe it. She didn't have room for all the parents that really wanted to be there. And she talked about the Watchdog programs, and she talked about grandfathers and fathers that chose to stay in the Watchdog program after their students had already left and had been there for 10, 12, many years. And they were part of the staff, part of the family at that school. So I want to encourage parents that as you participate and as you come to us, we will find a way. We will find a way to put your hands to work and to have your heart engaged with our campuses. So I want to encourage the parents. We welcome the opportunity for us to get better, to see through your eyes, and to learn where we can get better, but also for you to be in our schools. Our children need to see you there. So with that, Mr. Jackson, I'm concluded. I don't know why I fumbled at the end.
Debbie?
Yes. And Luke, if you thought visiting the NAC Center was emotional, just wait till May and the NAC graduation that we have at the Berry Center, because I promise you that will reduce you to tears when you see all the students who are and the situations they come from and how happy they are to live in the United States now and in this district. It's an incredible program. Okay, well, first of all, I want to start out thanking Charles Franklin and Paula Ross and her IT department for making it possible for this past 2 months for me to participate in board meetings virtually. I mean, I put Charles through the task because my internet at home is not good. And I would be texting him during a meeting and you know, Charles, you were just phenomenal. And thank you to all our IT folks for what you did to help me to stay connected and participate while I was recovering and in isolation. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And then I have been doing visits by phone since I don't have the mobility quite yet to go out into the schools. I'd do good to walk from my car to the principal's office, much less walk the school. So I am looking forward to being able to return to that next year. And I will tell you that when I began this COVID journey last July 21st to be exact. Some dates you never forget, and that will be one of them. I thought that the hard part was when I went to rehab and had to learn how to stand and walk again all over. But I have since learned, I thought once I got past that and got home, I told Dr. Henry, by January, I'm going to be back full force. Well, that's not always the way it happens, and I've learned new terms like I'm a long hauler, meaning it's not quick, and just when I get past something, other things pop up. It's not just lung issues and mobility issues. There are a host of other things that go along. My hair is growing back, so that's the good news. So, but anyway, I appreciate this board and Dr. Henry's patience as I've gone through that process. I'm not done yet. I've decided, I had pneumonia over Christmas, and, God has plans for me yet, so I am still trooping, and I'm back in pulmonary therapy and physical therapy, and I'm working as hard as I can to be back, because I do miss the things that y'all are talking about. I miss the governance conference and, all the different ball games and different things that I enjoy attending, but I will be back to that next year, I am sure. And then what a great night tonight, seeing all of our students be recognized. And I have to say it was a proud granny moment for me, seeing my oldest grandson be recognized tonight for his reserve champion hog. But as many of you know, I've been a supporter of FFA since my boys were in the program. This year was my 31st livestock show, and although I was not able to attend all of it, Dr. Macias and Denise Quebeca made it possible for me to kind of sneak in the building and isolate and watch my grandson's show, and I really did appreciate that. I couldn't manage to sell, but I was on the phone with my chamber herd, Mark, now I'm having McShaffrey. I'm having a COVID moment. Those are real too. With Mark McShaffrey buying animals, and I think Dr. Macias told me we're not finished counting yet, but we're over 700,000, which was about 100,000. But just like your kids and, on the swim team, your other student athletes, your band kids, these kids, it takes a tremendous amount of dedication to do what they do, because I know besides my grandson, 2 of those other students are in the barn at my house too, and I'm not up at that time, but I know they're there at 6:15 every morning, and they're usually there 2 to 3 hours in the evening after school, and then they have to go home and do their homework. So one of the many things I love about this district is we do offer opportunity for all, no matter what our students, what they're interested in. We have a program. I know one student who, when he went to ranch, he loves to fish, and he fishes in tournaments. So I think Bob Hull was the principal at the time, went to him and wanted to start a fishing club. And they did. There was just maybe 4 of them, but they had a fishing club. And then when Bridgeland opened, he went to Bridgeland, and they started the fishing club over there. So there is something for every student in this school district. And when our students are involved in these programs, we're developing leaders. Because what you saw before you tonight is our next generation of leaders, because they have learned the hard work it takes to excel and to be successful, and takes a lot of determination. And, it's not all fun. It's a lot of hard work. But I am so proud of all of our students, whether it be academics or athletics, whatever their interest is. But I'm so proud of them. And then finally, I just want to say to To our teachers and all our staff out there, I hope you have an awesome spring break. I hope you have. It sounds like we're going to have some good weather next week, and I hope you get to do whatever makes your heart happy next week and relax and come back, because then we're in it for the long haul. And my goal is to be able to walk in graduation. So,
Julie.
Thank you. Public school board trustees are required by the state of Texas to take certain classes every year or two and to earn a certain number of continuing education credits annually. We had a recent opportunity for us to earn credits at a governance camp, which has been mentioned already, that was conducted last weekend by the Texas Association of School Boards. I want to just share a few things that I found to be relevant and impactful. I attended a great session on how boards can work together smarter by maximizing their collective intelligence and by maintaining a focus on empathy. And I think that that's been demonstrated well tonight. Other tips focused on building consensus when opinions differ. It was really good stuff. There was a whole day devoted to student voice, and the students from around Texas who presented and led multiple discussions were amazing. Key points they made are, from my notes, public education is thriving. There is power in inclusivity. There is power in representation. Embrace authenticity. Focus on how to prepare students for the future versus what we know as the past. Cultivate a culture that respects the diversity of the next generation. Address mental health issues by putting systems in place to create a sense of belonging and community for students. These kids are so smart and so empowered, and they truly are the leaders of our future. I just was amazed and so impressed by them. We also had a guest speaker named Dr. Victor Rios, who talked to us about the concept of deficit language, which is about how the words we speak impact others, because the words we speak matter, and the words we use to label students matter. In the past, I've used the term at risk to label some students that I work with. Dr. Rios challenged us to reframe this deficit language to think of kids as at promise instead of at risk. When we label kids, they believe it. Whether we label them out loud or in our minds, they feel it. It's a mindset change to change from labeling kids from a perspective of what's wrong with you to what is your potential. Really good stuff for us to think about. Some of my other notes were to expect better of our students versus throwing them away, conflict resolution and reintegration versus punishment only. Some children are showing up to school adultified because of the responsibilities they had to take on during the pandemic, caring for their siblings, caring for their parents or grandparents, looking for work, exposure to social media, and even more as they were trying to survive these adverse situations. Children are also showing up at school with greater levels of anxiety and depression on top of the normal stress that they feel, especially for kiddos who may already have learning differences or challenges. Let me also say, some of our kids are making some very bad choices right now. There are significant consequences for these bad choices. These consequences are being implemented as required by law and by the district code of conduct. Many kids came back to school after the year of hybrid or at-home learning so frustrated and angry and hurt. Now when they walk through the door of the school and somebody bumps them in the hallway, instead of shaking it off and going to class, they're swinging fists. Our teachers and our administrators and counselors and police officers are trying to get their arms around this right now, as are educators across Texas and the U.S. And they're dealing with their own trauma and stress. I don't know what the answers are, but I believe that we're going to get through this hard time. This hard time will not last forever, but it will take some time and some effort, but we're going to get through it together. Back to labels, whether we are labeling students by demographics or subpopulations, or we are labeling based upon their zip code, their behavior, the way they dress, or their hairstyle, or the way they live their truths, all students deserve to be seen and nurtured, to be held accountable for their actions, to be held to high expectations, and to be given every opportunity to succeed that we can give them. And in closing, I just want to tell everyone, have a great spring break. We're crawling to the finish line to get to this week off, I know. I hope it's a relaxing opportunity to recharge your batteries so that we can finish the school year strongly. Thank you.
This past month has certainly been busy, and we have not returned to pre-COVID ways. Still, it was good to participate in Read Across America in my role as the Tomcat, as I almost completed the entire Copperfield circuit with stops at Feast and Lowry. My surgically repaired eyes weren't quite ready for the other schools, which requested an appearance, but not to worry, I will schedule those in the future. At the last board meeting, a gentleman spoke and inferred he could have members of the Black Panthers meet me at my house. I would say that if we have members of that movement, either the old or the new who are constituents, I'd be happy to share a cup of coffee with them and listen. I would note that when I was in college, I worked for a man who had the nickname of General. He was drafted by both St. Louis and Uncle Sam the same year. He was a ranking member of CORE. For those in the audience younger than me, and that may be almost everybody, that's Congress on Racial Equality. He had friends in SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and also knew several who were in the Black Panther movement. I would love to visit with the general at the same time as well, so if any Black Panthers want to connect with me over a cup of coffee, reach out to the general. I'd love to hear from him again. This month, I attended the American Association of University Women Awards Luncheon as 3 of our campuses, specifically Blaine Elementary, Blau Middle School, and the Carpenter Center, were awarded grants. I was pleased to do my part in the clarinet acquisition for Blau. I appreciate the efforts of our community in doing their part in helping to keep the temperature of board meetings a little bit cooler, and I ask that you continue in that regard. Words matter. What we do up here impacts our administrators and our students and impacts our students, as well as central administrators. This month we reviewed where we stand on reading progress, and the results were as expected because of the impact of COVID and school closures of prior year. The commissioners noted that the learning loss could be as much as 2 to 4 years. Still, there is progress and encouraging signs, including our outperforming the state by a wider margin than pre-pandemic calculations. The challenges are not unique to our district or even our state. So tonight, I tip my hat to our reading specialists, our classroom teachers, and leadership for facing these opportunities and helping to return our children to where they should be. That concludes board comments. One of the nice things about having surgically repaired eyes, the docs say they're enhanced. Reading is a challenge. I never thought I would get to that point where to read would be a struggle. We will now proceed with citizen participation, and as a reminder of our new process, if you have registered to speak this evening, you will see the order of names listed on the screens to your right and to your left. Before your name is called, please move forward and sit in one of the 2 reserved seats on the front row closest to the podium on my right. Our first speaker is Sun Harpani.
Hello, this is in regards to the email I sent to the board and copied Dr. Henry on February 18th in regards to Anthony Middle School. And my concern is many parents that are zoned to Anthony Middle School are terribly afraid of sending their children there for many reasons. They prefer to choose to go to Smith Middle School for the example of Smith outshines Anthony Middle School in every aspect. Academics, Smith is rated number 90 in middle schools in Texas. Anthony is rated 329. Smith has a reading proficiency of 81%. Anthony has a reading proficiency of 56. Math, 86% for Smith. Anthony, 58%. On the federal report card, you can see Anthony, who has about 600 less students, has 50 incidents of violence. Smith, 10. Why is that, and why can't we send our children to Smith Middle School, which is also part of Cypher ISD? No one seems to be taking action from Anthony Middle School. Many parents have repeatedly emailed the board, the superintendent, and no response. I just want to know that why Anthony Middle School has in-school suspension rate of 18% and Smith has 5%. Why is no one taking action? Why are our children subject to a hostile learning environment? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stacy DeMeyer, and tonight I wanted to talk about the Equity and Culture Report. Although it hasn't been discussed since January, for many of us, the discussion on the equity audit is far from over. Millennium Learning Concepts made several recommendations in the audit, one of them being to create a department within the district that focuses on equity. I understand that this is a huge undertaking, and I don't expect, at least in the near future, that the district will add a department like this. However, a committee made up of volunteers might be a good alternative. I'm confident that there are many people, including parents, teachers, students, and community members, that would be willing to volunteer to work on a district committee that focuses on DEI. I encourage the district to develop a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee and allow these volunteers to do the work on ensuring that there is accountability and progress in the district with regards to the audit results. With the remainder of my time, I'd like to quickly state my concerns with some of the political activity of trustees during the last primary election. While I think it is inappropriate for board trustees to use their trustee title when endorsing candidates, even going so far as to use our district's general copyrighted logo on an endorsement graphic, due to the partisan nature of the last board election, I honestly wasn't surprised to see this taking place. But I wouldn't be standing up here speaking about this if it wasn't for the type of candidates these trustees were endorsing. I saw several candidates being endorsed, and every single one of them was an anti-public education candidate. As a board trustee, you need to have the best interests of the district in mind. How can you wholeheartedly support our district and at the same time support candidates who are unfriendly to public schools? The same candidates who support school choice and would want to take away funds from our district. If you aren't a staunch public education supporter, what are you even doing on our board of trustees? That's all. Thank you for your time.
Our next speaker is Mike Gallaby. Mark Gallaby.
Close enough. I've been called worse. Mark Gallaby. So hearing these glowing reports and the aspirations of the board is very encouraging, especially as I'm handing out tonight Chapter 26 of the Education Code, which talks about parental rights and responsibilities. So I do very encouraged by that. And it starts off with parents are partners with educators, administrators, and school district boards of trustees. And parents shall be encouraged to actively participate in creating and implementing educational programs for their children. It also goes down to D, which says each board of trustees shall provide for procedures to consider complaints that a parent's right has been denied. And I know some of the board members that we have are starting to look at some way to do that. But I have a question for the board. What is your procedures? And how do you consider complaints? And how do you respond? To 2604 and B, a parent is entitled to access all written records of a school district concerning the parent's child, including a number of attendance records. So again, these are rules that are set up, and the access is out there. But when parents try to actually get hold of this information, all right, it is difficult, it is obfuscated, and not straightforward, as you would think the code would spell out. As we go over here to 2606, and this is available on the actonaction.org website, we have access to teaching materials. But we know, all right, that there's at least one school, one principal, and one teacher who is actively and purposely violating this, all right, for one of the school attendees and one of the students. Again, if the board is looking for ways to encourage and bring in, please let us know how we're supposed to address that. And finally, okay, as we go through, also a parent is entitled to remove, this is from 1995, a child temporarily from a class or other school activity that conflicts with the parent's religious or moral beliefs if the parent presents or delivers to the teachers, all right? And so, I mean, to me, again, how well is this being honored by the school district? And finally, a board of trustees of each school district shall adopt a grievance procedure under
Please
which the
wrap
board
up,
shall
sir.
address each complaint, I'm summing up, complaint that the board receives concerning violation of a right guaranteed by this chapter. So again, I ask the board of trustees, what is
Thank you
the right
for
to
your
grievance
comments, sir.
procedure?
Thank you. Thank you,
bet.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Aisha DeMayo. During last month's work session, it was testified a parent had an active assault charge on a current Cy-Fair ISD Leadership Committee member. I am the parent that was assaulted, and it happened at the January board meeting. I am here to ask why the board has done nothing to keep citizens safe and deter her harassment and bullying. Why does the board keep recognizing her at board meetings and not acknowledging the attack? Tonight, I'd like to give some background, play the video of the assault, and ask the board to remove the alleged assaulter from her position on the Community Leadership Committee. Here's the background. At the board meeting, I arrived alone with the table, some flyers, and an actinaction.org sign, as I do most board meetings. I was immediately swarmed by protesters who cussed at me and aggressively jumped in front of my table to block me from the media that was present. Although intimidated, I moved away from my table and began passing out January's actinaction.org flyer. It detailed how our parent empowerment group, actinaction.org, became aware young children were accessing horrific child sexual abuse, snuff films, and executions and things you'd see on the dark web via YouTube on their Chromebooks at school, sharing it at school. These were 10-year-olds. We notified the Cy-Fair IT department and corrective action was taken by YouTube and Google because we made Cy-Fair aware. I will play the video next. The assaulter bullied a fellow actinaction.org member, Donna Stallone, into moving out of the media's focus area. I start recording the incident to deter the bullying, and she swings and slaps my hand and knocks the phone to the ground.
That we brought up, that even Google and YouTube didn't know about. So, did you vote for, did you vote for Scott Henry? Go with the supporters over with the Scott Henry. I mean, why do you want to stand here in this room? Seriously.
That's when the phone was slapped out of my hand. Trustees, is this a type of behavior you condone? Are you going to take any action to discipline? I ask that you removed the alleged assaulter from the CLC. Thank you.
Leslie Gilmart.
Hello again. This time I have a message for our LGBTQIA students. Students, you belong in CFISD schools. You matter. You are a blessing. Our community is better because you're a part of it. There are adults and students on your campus who love and care about you and stand with you. CFISD's vision is lead, learn, empower, achieve, dream. CFISD is committed to providing opportunity for all. That includes our LGBTQIA students. You have a right to learn. You have a right to be empowered. You have a right to achieve. You have a right to dream. You have a right to do all of that in a safe, welcoming environment. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. To staff members and students who would be allies, make your voices heard. Use your privilege to stand up for and to protect others. Let our LGBTQIA students know how loved and appreciated they are. Our diversity is our strength. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Pam Davis Duck. I am a recently retired teacher who was employed 30-plus years in this district at the same elementary school. My children are very successful professionals because of this great Cy-Fair school district, and I am a property owner. I was well received to a very warm environment at my campus upon employment. During my employment, I experienced both rewarding and challenging situations. I met with opposition, being an educator, due to the color of my skin, and was not good enough to teach some students. I used those experiences that I encountered to sharpen my teaching skills. Irrespective of the challenges, I was able to forge ahead and create a positive and learning and engaging environment for all my students. The equity audit reflects that 78% of our student population is of color. We need due diligence to make this a win-win resolution. Let's press forward to address the equity audit to completion. Thank you very much.
Charlotte Lampe.
For the last 30 years, I have either been a presiding judge, alternate judge, or clerk at Hamilton Middle School for countywide elections. On Tuesday, March 1st, around 5 p.m., voters started coming into the gym area extremely agitated and were shocked when they only saw 20 to 30 people standing in the line. To my dismay, the parking lot was jammed full, making parking a major issue. In talking with the parents, we found out that a choir program had been scheduled for that evening, at the same time when we are usually slammed with voters. Parking is usually not a problem. However, with serving over 600 voters throughout the day, multiple cars for families coming to the choir program, the vehicles of teaching and support staff, you can well imagine the fiasco and the chaos the last couple of hours of voting were. Also, I have grave concerns about how many people looked at the massive levels of cars and translated that into a weight they were not willing to do. Disenfranchising the vote is a real issue, and I hope we will all work together to ensure the easiest access to a voting location that is possible. In talking with the principal at Hamilton Middle School, he told me individual school schedules are set in April and May for the next year, and he was unaware of the election calendar. Now would be a perfect time to give the principals throughout Cy-Fair ISD the schedules for upcoming elections. May I suggest that the Cy-Fair ISD administrative staff develop a protocol that extracurricular activities could and should be scheduled on any other date other than when an election is taking place at a school location. Please consult the Secretary of State website for upcoming dates. Those dates are etched in stone. I'd like to take a moment to share my sincerest thanks to Stephen Collins, the head
I'm sorry your
custodian.
time's up, Charlotte.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Ryan Lamb.
Okay. I would have said hi to my friend Ainsley, but she already left the building, so hi. Anyways, hi y'all. How's everyone doing tonight? It kind of a little emptied out now. It's a little Anyways, so I want to give a little thank you to the teachers. So I want to thank all my individual teachers. So first, I want to thank Mr. Fee, Miss Noel, Mr. Grumulaitis, Miss Hines, Mr. McInerney, Mr. Marcourt, Miss Moore, Miss Behenna, Miss Frazier, and our substitute teacher, Miss Boone, and Mr. Walter, my 8+ teacher. Thank you. Love y'all. Kind of hate school sometimes, but love y'all too much. Anyways, I also want to thank the journalism team for making this cool magazine. See, if you look closely, it has me on it, and that makes it 2 times better. But I'm in it twice, which means 4 times better. I know, right? Anyways, a few other little small things I want to add in. Thank you to the teachers for helping us through the school year. I know they're dragging us kicking and screaming to the finish line. That is tomorrow. Thank you. I'm so done with school. I can't wait till spring break. I'm going to sleep for 25 hours straight, and they're going to keep chugging coffee to get all of our grades and that we turned in late. Not me though. But oh yeah, so just making sure 31 pages, free journalism team, Bridgeton High School, gotta rep it a little bit. Also, a few like little tiny things I want to add in for my school. Please fix the lock on the bathroom. In the boys' bathroom next to the cafeteria, it's been broken for like 3 months and I'm tired of wedging it closed with my foot. Also, I know it's been mentioned by one of our trustees earlier, kids, stop stealing the soap dispensers. I want to clean my hands after I'm done with the bathroom, and they're never there. We have one now in the cafeteria that just got added back in. Overall, no, I just want to add a little bit of positivity stuff to the thing. So, you know, say hi to all of my teachers. Hi, everyone. You know, a little positive note, goodbye teachers. Anyways, bye-bye, have fun.
Bobby Hartman.
Good evening. A lot of smiling, happy faces, and I've only been to 3 board meetings in 21 years of being in the district, but 40 years being in Texas, so don't blame me for not being born here. However, I want to thank Julie for being so nice to me when I was out at the Resource Center at the presentation at the Resource Center for the, what do you call it there? It was called the Science Resource Center, and I volunteered. I would ask the board to consider anything that has something printed that says Sci Fair. Let's change that. Sci Good. Sci Great. Let's get rid of the word fair. We don't want that anymore. I will say that being here, I had 2 stepdaughters in school here, 33, 34. I got 2 grandchildren in school, Blisle, and I have one in Matsky. 40 years I was in airports and did about $900 million worth of management. You guys are managing this place wonderfully. I mean, I've looked at your financials. It's a great job you're doing. I was a watchdog dad for 5 years. If you haven't been it, do it. It is great. If those who don't know what watchdog dads do, find out. It's wonderful. I will not, when I do the Science Resource Center volunteer work, I will not hold the snake. I will not hold any of those slimy animals, so just beware. But I would encourage you, find out what you can volunteer to do. I'm retired, 67, pretty much not doing much. I do consult again at George Bush Airport and Hobby. If you get lost, construction turns you around, don't call me. I can't help you. I will ask the board one more thing. Does the board know what day of the year is National Constitution Day? We all voted here recently. Anybody? September 17th. I'll get off. Thank you.
That concludes our citizen participation request. I would point out that is when Constitution Day is, but Constitution Week is all around that day. And here in Sci-Fair, we do in fact celebrate the Constitution during that time period, although principals have the opportunity to pick an alternative day to do so. Agenda item 7B under the reports portion of the agenda was presented at the board work session on Monday, March 7th, 2022. So we will now proceed to a presentation by the administration on agenda item 7A, teacher incentive allotment.
Mr. President, I'm going to actually kick this off just very briefly, and then Teresa is going to go into the details. But as y'all all know, we have something in the state of Texas now called the Teacher Incentive Allotment. It was a big push by our current Commissioner of Education, and I'll be honest with you, it's not something that that philosophically I'm really in favor of. But having said that, I am in favor of, and I think it was mentioned earlier, paying all of our teachers with this pool of money more than they're making right now. So I wish we could kind of make sure all of our teachers got a little bit of that. But having said that, it is a reality. Some school districts around us have already started the process. Most school districts are about where we are or even behind us. And we never want for there to be a pot of money out there that our teachers can access that we don't have a plan in place for. So in order to maintain our competitiveness and in order to give our teachers an opportunity, literally hundreds of man hours have gone in to this plan where we are now, and hundreds more will be spent. I don't think it was rolled out at the state level in a very good way. I don't like the whole setup of it, but thanks to the leadership of Teresa and her team, we've got a plan in place that's going to give our teachers an opportunity to participate with your approval in this plan. Teresa.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. We did provide the board with an overview of teacher incentive allotment last May, and shared with you that we were going to begin the process of soliciting input and feedback from all of our stakeholders and determining kind of the direction we wanted to move. So tonight we're ready to kind of share that plan with you, but for our new trustees, I think it's important for us to take a step back and explain some of the details about teacher incentive allotment. And as Dr. Cummings pointed out during her public comments about teacher incentive allotment, she's exactly right. It's very complex. It's difficult to understand. As Dr. Henry mentioned, we've been on this journey since 2019, and again, it's a lot to wrap your brain around and try to figure out the best plan and the way to implement for a district our size. So just to kind of begin, the teacher incentive allotment was approved by the state in the 86th legislative session. It was a part of House Bill 3, which was the comprehensive school finance plan, and it allocated funds for districts to begin the development of a designation system. So the purpose of the teacher incentive allotment that was established by the state is to recruit and retain highly effective teachers and to provide additional compensation to those teachers that earn a designation. So there are two pathways. This was established by the state. There are two ways that a teacher could possibly earn a designation and receive additional compensation. The first is the National Board Certification. This is a nationally recognized certification process. Any teacher across the nation can participate in this program. Many states do provide additional compensation for teachers that earn the designation of National Board Certification. So Texas has now included that in the teacher incentive allotment plan. It is available, again, to all teachers, all content areas, but a minimum requirement is that they must have 3 years of experience or more. And again, it would be work that an individual teacher would do and earn the designation. It's not anything the district would award. And teachers would automatically, once they receive that certification, would automatically earn a recognized status. And I'll talk about that in just a second. The second pathway for teachers to earn a designation is optional for districts, okay? The National Board Certification, again, now through teacher incentive allotment, any teacher that earns that automatically receives that designation and is eligible to earn additional compensation. It's not anything that we can approve or deny through the teacher incentive allotment. The local designation or district teacher designation system is optional for districts. And so we have been exploring whether or not to develop this plan. So again, it's a district developed system. We have to apply, we have to submit an application to the state, we have to capture data, it has to be validated, and then we have to begin the process of issuing those designations. So the way we're going to kind of structure, I want to go back to first, I'm going to really talk about the state requirements and all of the options that have been provided to school districts in pursuing this, and then we're going to transition to then what is the CFISD plan going to look like. So just to kind of frame the discussion tonight. So eligibility for designation. So in looking at whether or not a teacher is eligible, whether it's a national board certification or a local designation system. Teachers must be assigned to a classroom. They must be a classroom teacher. They cannot be an administrator. In addition to that, they have to be eligible for a credible year of service the year the designation is earned. And that is following the same kind of credible years of service that they have for TRS. So there are 3 levels for a teacher to possibly earn as a designation. You see they're recognized as the lowest level, and you see a range of possible funding, exemplary and masters. There are several factors. You see that those are arranged. So there are several factors that go into the amount a teacher would earn at those different levels. Obviously, the designation level. Am I recognized? Am I exemplary? Or am I mastered? The second factor that influences the amount the teacher is eligible for is the socioeconomic need of that campus. And the state applies that. They look at, I think it's the actual kind of census block view that they take now to determine, like our compensatory ed allocation, the socioeconomic need, the number of students that are economically disadvantaged. So the more economically disadvantaged a campus is, the larger the allotment could possibly be. The third factor that the state established is a campus's rural status. Obviously, CFISD is not in a rural area, so our teachers and our campuses would not be eligible for the highest allotment amount. The other key points about the funding, there are several factors about this, and this is where it becomes a little more complex to kind of wrap your brain around. And for teachers that earn a designation, whether it's for the national board certification or they earn it through a local designation system, the teacher generates the allotment for the district. And what the state says, we're going to send the funds to the district, and the district has to develop a spending plan on how to allocate that money. It does not flow directly to the teacher. What they do say is that a minimum of 90% of that allotment must be spent on compensation for teachers at that campus. Not to Mr. Scanlon, who earned the designation. We could develop a spending plan that would divide it among all the teachers on the campus if that was the decision by the district and it was approved. That could also be the case with a teacher that earned a national board certification. Mr. Scanlon could earn the national board certification, generate an allotment for the district. We have to spend 90% of that allocation for teacher compensation at the campus where he is assigned, and we have to have a spending plan for that and how we're going to do that. The other complex thing about this is the money that the teacher generates, it travels with the teacher. It's going to appear on their certification. If Mr. Scanlon earns a national board certification, he's a recognized designation, the lowest level. It's printed on his teaching certificate, and it's good for 5 years. He generates an allotment for his campus for that year. The next year, Mr. Scanlon decides, I want to transfer to another campus. That allotment money goes with Mr. Scanlon. It follows him, and we have to then determine how are we going to allocate those funds and reallocate. Obviously, we've had a reduction in the allocation to Mr. Scanlon's current campus, and it's going to move with him to his new campus. The same thing happens if Mr. Scanlon leaves the district. The money follows Mr. Scanlon. Okay? Make sure I've covered everything. The other thing that's complicated about this, it's recalculated each year. Each year the state goes through and determines what the funding allotment would be for the different levels. And that's really going to vary based on the economic status of the campus. Campuses could change, obviously. They could increase in their economically disadvantaged percentage, or in our case, sometimes you have a boundary shift. You could change boundaries and it reduces or it increases the economically disadvantaged population on a campus. So that is a positive that it does adjust each year for those considerations. As I was sharing with the principals this morning, I don't see a campus all of a sudden becoming rural, but you may have a campus that is no longer in a rural area, that you start to have growth and development around that. So the state recalculates that each year. So even though Mr. Scanlon earned his designation for 5 years, that amount could change every single year. So in looking at the first pathway that I mentioned, National Board Certification, again, it's an individual teacher process. They earn that designation, but the highest level of designation that they can earn is recognized. That is the lowest level, and it's, again, earned by each teacher. Now, looking at the second pathway of a district-developed designation system. Again, optional. Optional whether or not we want to create that. The district does, the state does provide districts with a lot of options in how you want to set that up if you decide to pursue a local designation system. Obviously, first off, we don't have to have one. Right? We don't have to have one. Teachers, we could just have the only spending plan is for teachers that earn a national board certification. If you have a local designation system, you have to determine who are your eligible teachers through that system. We could go district-wide. We could say every campus in CFISD and all teachers would be eligible. We could say only teachers in core content areas at every campus in the district. We could say only our Title I campuses, only campuses in certain areas of our district. We have a lot of flexibility on how we want to identify the eligible teachers for a local designation system. The state does say you're required to have a minimum of 2 components in your plan, though. The 2 components that you must have in a local designation system, one is teacher observation. Your plan has to include the observation of teachers and their performance, and it must include a student growth measure. And teachers must be able to demonstrate growth in their students and along with their teacher observation. The third factor that we could include in a local designation system, again, optional, factors such as we could include surveys, teacher surveys, parent surveys, student surveys. You could consider teacher leadership responsibilities. You could consider teacher mentorships. There are a number of factors, additional factors that you could include in your plan that would add to the calculation of whether or not a teacher earns a designation. So a little bit about the application and approval timeline. It's a very involved process, and it's not just as simple as, okay, we're going to have a local designation system, we're going to submit our application to the state, and we begin work. It's a very lengthy process. The first step, and we're in cohort E. When the state rolled this out or approved this in May of 2019, the first group of districts would be called cohort A. Really, A and B, those early cohorts of districts that started the teacher incentive allotment process, they had some type of teacher incentive plan already in place in their district, so they were not having to start really where we are in the planning and stakeholder engagement. They had already done that. They had a plan, they had already conducted their stakeholder engagement, so they were able to begin the implementation much quicker. And I'll explain in the timeline why we're even a little bit later. So again, through the summer and spring, cohort E districts would be in their planning and stakeholder engagement process, which is, again, where we are. So for the 22-23 academic year, what we would do, we would complete our application, we would submit that to TEA. They would review our application and determine whether or not they approve the actual application. And then next school year, we would have to begin what they call data capture. That would mean that the teachers that are eligible based on our plan that we submit, we would have to start gathering all the teacher observation data, the student growth data, and then that third factor, which is optional, any additional factors that we want to include, like the surveys or teacher responsibilities. So you start gathering all of your data that you've included as a part of your plan during the 22-23 school year. So what the state has done is they've identified Texas Tech University as the entity that would then validate your data. So we send all of that data that we've collected on our eligible teachers, we send it to Texas Tech University, and they have to determine whether or not that data is valid and reliable. They go through a very extensive analysis and determine. Then they send that back to TEA. TEA has to review their validation of our data, whether or not they've approved it or not, and then they tell us whether or not it's a go. And then teachers would begin receiving the allotment in the 24-25 school year. So this is not anything that's going to happen overnight, but you see how involved it is and how we have to begin at some point in the direction that we want to move as a district. So just a little bit about the progress. We've had teachers inquire and say, why are we just now hearing about this? Why didn't we know about this in 2019? And I think that it's important for you to know we've been very thoughtful about this. This is not anything you can rush into. This is not anything that you can just, jump out there and just start creating a plan and say we're going to designate different content areas. There's a lot that goes into this, and as Dr. Henry mentioned, we've really been working on this since the fall of 2019. So in the fall of 2019, we attended a number of informational sessions, and again, just trying to wrap our brain around this and how the state is setting this up. And you can imagine in the fall initially, I think TEA and also TASB and some of those other groups that were trying to support school districts, they were trying to figure it out. They were trying to understand, how is this going to work? What's the application going to look like? What's going to be the approval process? So it really was important for us to kind of sit back and see what was going to happen, especially with the districts that already had some type of incentive plan in place, and see how that was going to work for them. We did form a core advisory council. You can see on the screen there the members of that team, and what we did for that was the group that started attending these informational sessions. They really represented all the key areas that were going to be impacted by this. Obviously, school leadership with our principals, our professional learning department that support our campuses with the appraisal process, HR, curriculum, and accountability with all of the growth measures and how are we going to do that. So you can see communication team, all of the key players we were trying to include as we started to learn about this process. In the spring of 2020, we thought we were in a good place. We were ready to come to the board that spring and start really explaining where we are and what our plans were, but the pandemic hit, right? So we never returned to school that year. We start the fall of 2020, and I can honestly tell you the last thing we were thinking about in the fall of 2020 was TIA. That was just, we actually did not meet as a group. We were focused on supporting our campuses that year with all of the challenges. And so we kind of moved into the spring. And if you'll recall, in the spring of 21, we really thought we were kind of through the pandemic. We thought we were in a much better place and that we were going to be able to start the 21-22 school year somewhat normal. And so we did reconvene the committee. We started again talking about where we left off, how do we want to move forward. We created a PowerPoint video that kind of explained a lot of the information that I'm sharing with you tonight. We prepared that for our campuses and principals to be able to share that with all of their teachers to start, creating this level of awareness about TIA and the options that the district had in implementing this. We provided the presentation to you at the May board meeting in 21 and shared with you that we were going to form our full advisory council that was then going to start to dig in deeper about this local designation system and what kind of plan, if any. That was the big question. Did we want a local designation system? That was the million-dollar question, and that's what's so difficult with this, is knowing the direction that you needed to go. And I can honestly tell you, as Dr. Henry mentioned, philosophically, connecting compensation to teacher performance and observation in our industry, student performance is difficult. There's so many factors that influence that student performance. And so we wanted to make certain that we were cautious and careful with this, but we also didn't want to be the barrier for teachers having the opportunity to earn additional compensation. So in looking at the full advisory council, we spent a lot of time with this group. You can see again, the state did have some recommended groups that you include. We had teachers on the committee, we had administrators, we had our teacher organizations. We had representatives that we invited to be a part of this from all three of our active teacher organizations in the district. We felt that it was important that they kind of hear all of the conversation and discussion around the development of a plan. And we did some surveying. We met with the Corps and full advisory council. We did survey that group, and again, kind of interesting, there really wasn't initially a lot of interest with the full advisory council. Our teachers that were a part of that, they were like, no, I don't think we want a teacher designation system, a local system rather. And so when we kind of shared, okay, we're taking that feedback and we want to move forward, they were like, oh, but wait, we don't want to be the only voice in this. So we listened to that. We said, okay, we're going to go out and then we're going to go to the broader teacher audience across the district and try to get input and feedback from those groups. So through the fall of this year, we conducted a number of Zoom sessions. We scheduled like 4 or 5. After work hours, we tried to make it as easy as possible for teachers to be able to log on. They could do it from home. They could do it from their campus to learn about this and actually complete a survey and give us their input and feedback. I will share with you that the survey results and the participation were low. It was low. There was not a lot of participation from our teachers. And I think a lot of that has to do with just how busy they are. They're just busy. There's just a lot going on. And so what we did then, we took all of the results. The results from the small little sample group that we did have indicated a desire for the district to develop a local designation system. So we were at a crossroads of knowing which direction to go. So we met with Dr. Henry and all of the associate superintendents, and the Corps Advisory Council came in and we shared all of this information. We shared the progress we had made, the survey, what the survey revealed, and then just tried to seek guidance on the direction we needed to move on whether or not to create this local plan. So again, just as Dr. Henry shared and what I mentioned, we just felt that we needed to try to develop something, again, not being the barrier for teachers to have the opportunity, but we needed to be careful. We needed to implement a plan or develop a plan that could minimize the issues and problems, not create additional work for our teachers. There is going to be some additional work for our administrators. I'll be very honest, because there's going to be some changes in the observation process. But we're also, when we start talking about our plan, that was one of the considerations about the plan that we're going to share with you that we just developed and why it's structured the way that it is. So one of the other considerations that we talked about is, what's happening in the surrounding districts, what's happening with our peer districts. When we were going through the exploratory process and trying to determine, the direction we wanted to move, we met with representatives from Alief, Tomball, and Klein. Klein was actually in cohort A because they already had a incentive program in place at Klein Forest High School, and so they were able to jump on with teacher incentive allotment for that high school. And since that time, they're gradually expanding their local designation system to include more campuses and more teachers. But it's not a widespread plan. And again, Klein is a competitor, right? It's a great district. We share a lot of information with them. We're great partners with them, but we also have to compete for our teachers. Tomball, we've had great communication with Tomball about their process and their plan and what they are doing. Let me go back. One thing that we did do that I didn't mention in December when we went and had the conversation with Dr. Henry and the other associates about the direction, once we made the decision we were going to move forward, we knew we needed some help. We wanted to make certain that we were considering everything in the development of this. So we reached out to some consultants. We had learned that Tomball had used a consultant in a couple of other districts. And we met with a couple of different ones, and we selected Tammy Cruz. She is phenomenal. She really has been an incredible resource for us. She's provided a lot of technical assistance. She has been working with school districts across the state that have been developing a local designation system, help them with the development of their plan. She's also has a great relationship with folks at TEA. And so she has been working with us and giving us a lot of guidance in the development of our plan. I apologize that I left that out. So again, just looking at our neighbors, Tomball and Waller, obviously also on the borders of our district, and they're in the process of developing a local designation system. So again, remaining competitive, and then given the current situation with the difficulty of recruiting and retaining quality teachers, we just felt that we needed to consider that and develop a plan. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to transition to the team back here, and they're going to walk you through the actual plan that we've developed for a local designation system.
So as you may recall, the district's designation system must contain two components that you see at the top of the slide: teacher observation and student growth. In Cyfair, observation is based on our locally adopted appraisal rubric, CF-TESS. For our growth measure, for our student growth measure, our initial TI application will focus on STAR growth. Both are required by TEA, both components, and they must be proven to be valid and reliable. And those are two words that you're going to hear chimed several times this evening, the words valid and reliable. The third component is optional, and the district has determined that we will not include this component. When determining if a teacher qualifies for a designation, the CF-TESS summative score and classroom student growth will both be weighted 50%. So it's a 50-50. Therefore, any teacher who meets the state's teacher observation minimum average ratings for the teacher evaluation system and the statewide student growth performance standards will be recommended for a designation. Now let's examine the first component of the teacher's designation system, teacher observation. In CFISD, all teachers in the eligible grade levels and content areas will receive a full annual appraisal using the district's locally adopted appraisal process, CF-TESS. As was previously shared, the goal of teacher observation component of a district's local teacher designation system is to ensure that teacher observation ratings are valid and reliable. Valid in the sense that the observation accurately reflects the true effectiveness of each teacher and correlated with student growth data. And reliable in the sense that teacher observations across the district are consistent regardless of the appraiser, the campus, the subject, or the grade level. So when it comes to validity and reliability, the appraiser plays a vital role in assessing teaching proficiency and ensuring that teachers and administrators derive reliable and meaningful information from the teacher appraisal process. By providing evidence-based feedback aligned to the CF test rubric, appraisers help teachers make decisions that support efforts to improve instructional quality and student performance. Through ongoing training and support, the district ensures that appraisers have the knowledge needed to make impartial and valid judgments during the observations. To promote observations that are accurate, reliable, and valuable, CFISD appraisers participate in calibration activities with campus and other district-level administrators. During calibration events or rounds, groups or pairs of appraisers observe a lesson, they capture evidence, and they calibrate with colleagues. The district's calibration plan will include opportunities for appraisers to observe their own teachers on their own campuses with their fellow appraisers while calibrating together, and during district calibration events at leadership meetings using master scored video lessons of teachers. Calibrating expectations for educator practice and deepening collective knowledge of strategies and are essential to strengthening educator practice and to improving student performance. The district will utilize the CF test observation rubric, as was shared with you, with the intentional focus on domains 2, which is instruction, and domain 3, which is learning environment, as these two domains are observed in the live classroom setting. For each of the 8 dimensions that lie within domains 2 and 3, the teacher ratings will be calculated using the following metrics. Distinguished will equal 5 points, accomplished 4, skilled 3, developing 2, and below expectations 1. Each of the 8 dimension scores will be averaged together equally for a cumulative numerical rating between a 1 and a 5. After compiling the summative CF test scores, the teacher observation minimum average rating for the recognized designation level is a 3.7. For the exemplary designation level, the minimum average is a 3.9. And for the master level, the minimum average is a 4.5. For all 3 designation levels, the minimum performance rating on the CF test in all 8 dimensions would need to be at the skilled performance level or above. At this time, Dr. Ashley Claiborne will share information and details around the second component of the local designation system, the student performance.
The second required measure is student performance. For clarity's sake, we are not measuring student achievement, which is a point-in-time measure that evaluates how well a student performs against a standard. We are measuring growth, which demonstrates the progress a student makes over time, typically from one year to the next. No matter where a student begins, they can always show growth. The Texas Education Agency has determined statewide student growth performance standards for the teacher incentive allotment. For a teacher to be recognized, 55% of the students must meet or exceed expected growth. For an exemplary designation, 60% of the students must meet or exceed expected growth. And for a master designation, 70% of the students must meet or exceed expected growth. While there are various options to measure growth, the state requires that growth measures are proven to be valid and reliable. They must measure what they say they measure, and results must be consistent over time. For purposes of our first application, Cyfair ISD will use the STAR growth measure. Due to the fact that we are using the STAR growth measure, which has been proven to be valid and reliable, the first group of Cyfair teachers eligible for the local designation are on the screen before you now. 4th through 8th grade reading and math teachers, Algebra 1 and English 2 teachers, life skills teachers, and special ed resource and in-class support teachers. Please note that while these teachers will have a modification in their observation schedule, these teachers will not have additional work. The teacher incentive allotment should not be viewed as additional work for teachers. Although these are the content areas and grade levels selected for the initial phase of the district designation system, we plan to explore ways to include other content areas and grade levels in the future. This will require developing growth measures that are proven to be valid and reliable over time for other content areas. Now, let's take a look at a few examples of how a teacher would or would not be recommended for a designation. We'll start with a 6th grade math teacher. On Cyfair tests, the teacher has ratings of 3 or 4 in each dimension, with an overall average of 3.7. And 57% of the teacher's students showed growth on STAR. The teacher meets the eligibility requirements. The Cyfair test score qualifies the teacher in the recognized designation level, and the student growth data qualify the teacher in the recognized level as well. Therefore, the teacher would be recommended for the recognized designation. Now let's look at an Algebra 1 teacher. On Cyfair tests, the teacher has ratings of 4 or 5 in each dimension, with an overall average of 4.6. And 59% of the teacher's students showed growth on STAR. The teacher does meet the eligibility requirements. The Cyfair test score qualifies the teacher in the master designation level, and student growth data qualify the teacher in the recognized level. This teacher would be recommended for the recognized designation. If there's a mismatch between eligible areas, the lower of the two is selected. Our next teacher works with life skills students. On Cyfair tests, the teacher has ratings of 3, 4, or 5 in each dimension, with an overall average of 3.75. And 50% of the teacher's students show growth on STAR Alternate 2. The teacher meets the eligibility requirements. The Cyfair test score does qualify the teacher at the recognized level. However, the student growth data do not qualify the teacher. Therefore, the teacher would not be recommended for a designation because all 3 criteria were not met. Our final example is of a 5th grade math teacher. On Cyfair tests, the teacher has ratings of 2, 4, and 5, with an average of 4.1, and 60% of the teacher's students show growth on STAR. The teacher meets the eligibility requirements. However, the Cyfair test score does not qualify the teacher because one of the dimensions is rated a 2. All dimensions must be rated at 3 or higher. The student growth data do qualify the teacher in the exemplary level. However, the teacher would not be recommended for a designation because all 3 criteria were not met. Even though we have developed our district process, we must still complete an approval process put in place by the Texas Education Agency. On April 15th, we will submit our application and they will review it and provide us feedback. We will address their feedback, and it is our expectation that we will have an approved application. During the 22-23 school year, we will collect Cyfair tests and STAR growth data to submit to Texas Tech for validation. And we have to pass that validation in order to provide teachers with the designated payments. Now, Dr. Tanya Gorey will share with you district-level information on the National Board certification process.
While our district designation system currently has a number of teachers who qualify, or a certain number of teachers who qualify to participate, the National Board Certification process, as you heard Teresa mention, is available for all teachers with 3 or more years of experience. The National Board is recognized as the gold standard in teacher certification, and there are 25 areas in which a teacher can certify. This certification process involves completing 4 components. Component 1 is a content knowledge computer-based assessment. Component 2, differentiation in the classroom. Here, teachers are asked to gather and analyze information about individual students' strengths and needs, and use that information to design instruction to advance student achievement. Components 2, 3, and 4 are portfolio entries. Component 3 is teaching practice and the learning environment. This entry requires a video recording of the teacher's interactions with students. The teacher then submits a commentary describing, analyzing, and reflecting on their teaching practices. And then the final component is component 4, effective and reflective practitioner. Candidates here describe their knowledge of how to use assessment data to effectively plan for and positively impact student learning. This submission also requires evidence of collaboration with families, the community, colleagues, and the candidate's contribution to the learning community to advance student growth. Some of our standard practices here in Cy-Fair, such as collaborative planning, our data digs, our DPMs, our common assessments, and our procedures for parent communication, should help candidates successfully complete components 2 through 4. Because we believe in supporting our employees, this past September 2021, Cy-Fair launched a free National Board Certification cohort that is currently being facilitated by 3 teachers in our district who are National Board Certified. At this time, there are close to 100 teachers pursuing certification, some of which are expected to certify this year, and others will certify in 2023. Upon successful completion of the certification process, teachers qualify, as you heard, at the recognized level of teacher incentive allotment, and they are eligible to earn additional funding. Also, all fees associated with going through the certification process are refundable as well. This April, we will host an informational meeting to start our 2nd National Board cohort. At this time, Karen Smith will walk us through the spending plan.
As Teresa Hull mentioned earlier, the state requires that the district spend at least 90% of the teacher incentive allotment funds on teacher compensation at the designated teacher's campus. This could be something such as putting all the money towards the designated teacher, or we could possibly give it towards a team of teachers. Based on stakeholder input that the district received from the TIA Full Advisory Council meetings, it was determined that 90% of the teacher incentive allotment funds would be provided to the teacher that earned the TIA designation. The 90% compensation includes all TRS and all Medicare benefits. In other words, it would be the employee and the employer portion of those items. The state allows the district to utilize 10% towards of the TIA allotment towards administering the program. The district will utilize 10% of it to generate the generated allotment to expand the local designation system. For example, purchasing assessments to measure student growth for K through 3 reading and math. The 10% will also include supporting the district's efforts to ensure calibration of appraisals, as Glenda Horner explained to you earlier. Districts are notified by the Texas Education Agency in April the amount of the allotments that were generated by campus for recognized, exemplary, and master designations. And then the district will notify the teachers in May whether they will be receiving a designation and then the amount of that designation. and teachers that earn a designation will receive a separate lump sum payment in the summer of 2024. Now, we do have a few teachers that already have national board certification and also that came to our district from another district with a local designation, and those teachers are receiving it prior to that period of time. The district is required to disperse the allotment no later than August 31st, and then we receive the funding from the state in the following September. At this time, I'll turn it over to Leslie Francis, and she'll walk you through the TIA communication plan leading up to the plan submission on April 15th.
Thank you. So the date that you've heard mentioned a lot tonight is April 15th. So our plan submission is 5 weeks from tomorrow. And if you include spring break in there, we have 4 weeks before our plan is submitted. So what I'd like to go over with you right now is our communication plan to ensure that all of our stakeholders are well informed of the CFISD plan. So if you take a look at the March calendar, you'll see today in yellow, this morning we shared the plan with our principals and our district leadership team. Tonight we're sharing the plan publicly with the Board of Trustees and our community. Between now and Monday, March 28th, our communication department will be developing a video that we're going to share with all of the teachers in the district. We're aiming to have that be a very clear, concise, as short as possible a video to let all of our teachers know what this plan is. As you heard earlier tonight, all of our teachers did have an opportunity to see the initial, what TIA was all about last spring, and we held informational meetings in November via Zoom, and now this will be an opportunity for all teachers in the district to hear what the CFISD plan is. So in April, between April 4th and April 13th, we've designated 8 days for campus principals to hold faculty meetings to ensure that all teachers in the district have the opportunity to hear about the plan. On April 14th, you see it indicated in yellow, will be when the Core Advisory Council sends out a follow-up email that just lets all the teachers know you had the opportunity to see the video about the plan. We have resources posted on the internet. If you have questions, there will be a QR code that they can submit questions if something hasn't been answered in the video. And then we'll also have a frequently asked question document. We've had some of those resources posted for the past year, and this will be an update with the actual plan there. On Friday, April 15th is our big day. That is the day that the plan is submitted to the state. That's going to be a very exciting day for the district. We've been told that within 48 hours of submitting the plan, all teachers in the district will receive a survey asking to what extent the teachers know about the plan and understand the plan. And so that you can see that occurs sometime over Easter weekend. We're not really sure how that works because of those holidays. So I know you're thinking, what happens next? So let's look at what's going to happen in the next couple of months and years. So we're going to start out again with April 15th, which is our big submission day. We're going to submit our plan to TEA, and shortly after that, all of our teachers in the district are going to receive a survey. And then we've been told in about 8 weeks after that, or approximately mid-June, the district will receive feedback on 2 things. We'll receive feedback on our application that we submitted, and we'll also receive feedback on our teacher surveys. So it will give us the opportunity to modify our application, and it will also give us an opportunity to reconnect with our teachers if there's parts of the plan that they don't understand or need clarification on. So July 2022 is when we would modify our application and we would resubmit or submit our updated application. And as you heard earlier tonight, we fully anticipate by mid-August that our plan will be accepted. Throughout the 2022-2023 school year is our data collection period for CF test data and also our STAR growth measures. November 2023, our data is due to Texas Tech for data validation. Around February 2024, we will receive notification of the data validation, either a pass or fail. April 2024, TEA will determine the amount of funding that each teacher will generate and submit that list to us. And then you see summer 2024 is the earliest date for teachers to receive payout. And I did jump over one thing on the calendar. I just realized I wanted to point out. I'm going to back up real quick to this calendar because this is an important date on there. On March 28th, we're going to be sharing our video with the District Educational Improvement Council, the DEIC. We have teachers representing every single school on that committee. And so on the 28th, they will actually get to see a preview of this teacher video and provide input to us. And then our team will have a couple of days to make modifications to that video before turning it back to the principals. I apologize for skipping over that, but that's an important date. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to any questions. Thank you all for your time tonight.
Excellent presentation. Let's see if there's some questions. Going to the right. Scott?
Not this time, I do not, no.
Thank you. Natalie?
Fantastic work, a lot of work in a very complicated process. What excites me about this is that it can help teachers, that we have talked many times, teachers and their compensation, what we can do. So the first question I have is, can you explain, I'm not sure if it's truly, we often, I know at the CLC meeting this last week, it was mentioned about the funding, the optional homestead exemption, ways to increase the budget for our district. Karen, can you explain the source of this dollars, this money? So whether to participate or not, the point is, where does this money come from? Does it cost the taxpayers of our district money?
That's a great question.
Directly.
The funding comes, it's through House Bill 3 that was part of the 86th legislative session, and the funding will come to the district and flow to the district. So it will not cost the taxpayers any money. It will flow through to the district.
So it's free money to the state should a teacher qualify. The district.
It's money to the district.
Right.
Yes.
To go, and then the decision was made at 90% to have it flow to the teacher who earned the designation.
I mean, and it's possible, just so you know, as we expand to other areas, that 10% won't cover all the cost, but it will be minimal.
I also had a question. It seems like, I think it's a very practical approach that the district took. And I noticed we had crossed off the X on the highest amount because we're not rural. But I wondered if, I wrote it down in case not, the amount, there's a map available where you can look at the demographics, right? Do you know the highest earning campus and the lowest earning campus at the master's, the exemplary and recognized level?
I don't have that right in front of me. I just have kind of a range, I guess you could say. For example, on the recognized, what we looked up is what was the minimum when we looked at all the CFISD campuses. The minimum for recognized was 3,071, and then the maximum was 7,851. And then I'll just go to the master next, the next set. And the minimum was 12,237, and the maximum was 28,169. And this is based on this last year.
That's, yes. So basically, I looked at Bain Elementary, where we heard at our presentation last time, and there's an incredible strong team there doing amazing work. When we looked at that, the impact on our district report card, a teacher who does incredible work for kids can earn $28,169. That does not come from the district budget. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
That's fantastic. And it looked like the lowest paying elementary school, maybe it might be one more school that could have a number, but the lowest paying master's teacher at our most affluent elementary school would earn $12,268 extra dollars. Maybe there's one a little bit different.
Just slightly, yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure, because I think in the teacher participation numbers, I think that sometimes understanding that that's what happens is important. Next question I wonder is, do we know if it's allowable in the application that teachers can opt in or opt out individually? In other words, I may not choose to if I don't like this idea or concerned about the implications, can an individual teacher choose not to be considered?
That's a great question, and we actually asked that to TEA. When the district designates the eligible content areas, all of the teachers within that content area must participate because they need all of that data to validate the reliability and validity of the information.
Interesting. Thank you, Teresa. I also wondered if you have any data on looking at how you drew the cut scores for the CF tests at the 3.7, 3.9, and 4.5. What percentage of teachers in the past made it into those categories? Did we choose the most liberal application of that possible to have more teachers included based on past data with CF tests?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to let Glenda or Ashley come up. We had a lot of conversation about this, and what's been difficult in going back and looking at data, in 2019-20, when the pandemic started, we weren't able to complete the appraisal process that year, correct? And so we can't even use that year. Fast forward to school year 2021, we waived the appraisal process except for those teachers that were required to have an appraisal because of just all that they were doing. So the only data that we have right now that's complete is from the 18-19 school year. So
where the cut scores came from, they came from the state. So that was handed down to us as the set cut scores, the set expectation. And as Teresa spoke, Ashley Claiborne and I ran our two reports side by side to see where we were in the 18-19 school year. And Ashley, help me out a little bit here. We kind of laid those side by side. I think we called out around 700 teachers where we had matches. They had CF test scores, and then they also had the student growth score as well. And bottom line is Ashley's pulling that up because we had a lot of conversation about that as far as what the correlation was.
So when we looked at those 700 teachers who had both growth and Cypher test data that we could use, about 31% of those teachers did qualify for a designation.
That's phenomenal. 31%. And I just wanted to compliment you guys on your slide presentation. It's a lot of information, but I really appreciated the growth slide where you showed bill to bill. That was really easy to understand and it made it really, and I would, I feel like this, in a huge system and in the times we're in, this very practical approach is, I respect the process that was undertaken. And then I look forward to the day where with growth data, kind of like the reading data that was provided to us recently, that growth data can be robust and we can include many more categories of teachers so that they can have this opportunity to be, it's not just earn extra money, it's designated and recognized at a state level. And I will also mention there are many things in the equity audit that I agree with or don't agree with, but one of the points of the whole reason why the state did this was to have the most competitive, most exemplary teachers performing with the kids that are in the most poverty. Because what we can do is go down the slideshow here, and this was done, the data by the state was done according to the level of poverty by the census data, in other words, in that area. So what we will see evident in everything we do is that the level of socioeconomic status is what is the greatest factor that's going to declare or decree whether a school is how they're performing as a campus. So my point is, this is a way to also have teachers look to go to the most needy parts of town and serve there and have a chance to earn more. So I think it's a very interesting proposition in that way. I think every kid deserves an amazing teacher. But I think the factors in poverty are really difficult and they were exacerbated by this pandemic. And so it's kind of exciting to see what that might do as well. But I definitely thank you. That is the last question. I appreciate the incredible work that your group has put in to do this. And I really appreciate also seeing how the different departments pull their piece in. And you're an amazing, your team, Dr. Henry, is an amazing team that everyone brings their expertise and they always show up with a product that's amazing. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Gilbert.
As usual, an outstanding presentation again. It's nice to see our new trustees see in action your full capability, and it's usually the same words as I usually say. Y'all usually have the answers before we even ask the question, so it's very nice to see again, of course. Did we gather when you made our pitch to the state that we're going to do? Was there another district that you look for information that was already ahead of us that you kind of said, hey, you know what, they're a little ahead of us, they're kind of our size or relatively? Is there somebody else that you looked at?
Yes, we met actually with Klein, and Klein is already engaged in this process and they have a local designation system. They're structured very differently than us. They really limit the teachers that are eligible even within a content area. So they're, again, just structured very differently. We also met with ALEAF. ALEAF is a little ahead of us in the development of their plan, and Tom Ball. We met with Tom Ball. There are really not a lot of large districts that are comparable to Cy-Fair for us to reach out to in other parts of the state. We're kind of leading that charge as a large district, so that's the different groups. And again, I think our consultant, Tammy Cruz, who has worked with school districts across the state, she's been able to kind of share with us some challenges that those districts have faced, both through the development of their plans being denied and not approved, and things for us to consider. So I can tell you, she has been the best decision we've made to consult with her and, rely on her expertise and experience with this process.
That's great to hear. It's nice to see that during your presentation that you're taking into account the different facets and checking off maybe the barriers that may come up, and you're already working with them, saying and the sensitivity that you want to put out there to make sure that the teachers know that we are behind them. And we're going to give you, like you said, Teresa, every chance to make a little bit more if that falls in your realm. And like Natalie said, I voice her opinion to where hopefully we can get it to where we can enlarge to other groups of teachers and stuff, and make sure everybody's felt wanted and stuff and loved. So thank you guys. Great presentation.
Lucas.
From the surveys that have been collected, survey responses, assuming that we pass and our plan gets accepted, what do you expect the teachers' feedback to be in their level of participation? What have they expressed? Do you have any subjective information about it?
I really don't. As far as subjective responses, I think that just meeting with our principals, discussion that we've had, full advisory council feedback. I think one concern will be teachers that are not eligible, obviously. Yeah. But I think it's important to understand that, that student growth measure piece is a challenge, and we have to be very careful with how we develop that. And that's the reason we made the decision to limit right now to those content areas where a STAR growth measure is already present. It's already proven to be a reliable, valid instrument, and also being mindful that we don't want to add anything additional to our teachers at this time. Right now, we had a question this morning from our principals about the primary grades and a couple of assessments that they know that are possibly available to use as a growth measure, but we've not used those. So it would be something new for those teachers. They've never used that before. And our consultant really advised us to have a year of implementing a growth measure before then we add it in as an eligible content area so that teachers have the opportunity to learn it, understand it. Again, when you start moving into a lot of those elective areas, Dr. Macias and her team are going to have to really work with those coordinators and start having conversations with those teachers about different growth measures and how we can create those. And that's just going to take some time. And again, making certain that we're not putting something extra on classroom teachers as we go through this process.
Yep. And echoing a lot of the sentiments already expressed, these discussions have to be handled with extreme care, and that is very evident from what your team has done, Dr. Henry. So I, appreciate it. I know this is extremely sensitive. And then my understanding, can you help me clarify my understanding? So the plan that we're going to implement chooses to award to teachers that do receive a designation. They receive all the compensation themselves. It's not going to the rest of the school. It follows the teacher specifically?
Yeah. 90% of it will go to the campus, well, to the teacher that has to go to the campus where the teacher is, but we will have 90% of it going directly to the teacher
and
that earned the designation.
Yep. And from my perspective, just in business, I'm a firm believer in meritocracy. And so people that do the work and they see the benefit directly, I think that's a good thing. It's a positive outcome. So, no further comments.
Debbie.
Yes. Thank you for such a detailed report. It's all I can say is wow. It's a lot to wrap your head around in a short amount of time. But I have just a couple of questions that come to mind real quickly. First of all, who would administrate the program? Because I'm thinking that we probably would need to hire someone to be the administrator over it. Is that correct? Is that what you're thinking?
We actually haven't gotten that far into deciding that. It is very complex, as you mentioned,
Yes.
and a lot of verification of data that's going to have to occur. So we'll really begin that discussion again, as Karen mentioned, that 10% that the district is able to retain to cover some of the cost associated with the implementation. In a district our size, it's really not going to be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have not finalized that. I'm
Okay.
sure the HR team's thinking we have to have people to.
Well, that was what I was thinking. Also, and I think I kind of know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Will only principals conduct appraisals of these teachers, or will it also be assistant principals?
So anyone on a campus who is a certified appraiser can appraise teachers. So for example, on the elementary level, it's the principal and then traditionally 2 assistant principals at most of our elementaries. At middle school, the team is a little larger. We have 3 APs, the principal and then the director of instruction. High school has a larger team. So those are the folks who will carry the weight and the responsibility of the appraisal process.
Because I guess my only concern, I understand that because we're talking about, in some cases, a lot of people. My only concern is from my experience in industry before and having supervisors do the appraisals is not everyone appraises the same. And so I'm just wondering how we can assure that each teacher would receive the same fair appraisal.
That's a really great consideration and a really great question, and something that we have talked a lot behind the scenes about. We're going to do that through calibration. And we actually determined, even pre-TIA, that we started really just utilizing calibration events at a district level. In some of our leadership meetings, we kind of took it out for a test bin even before we were thinking about TIA. And even when we were kind of in that if factor of if we're going to move forward with the local designation, we said out loud, we're going to make a commitment to ensure that our appraisers are calibrated. So whether we do TIA local or not, It's incredibly important that our appraisers are calibrated. So a couple different ways that we'll be able to do that. One is, and I will tell you, our campuses already do this. One would be for a small group of appraisers to walk into classrooms on their campus to calibrate with one another, and also with the rubric. And then we'll also be able to do that on a larger scale at specific points during the school year. We'll calibrate district-wide at some of their leadership meetings where we're able, again, to have those great conversations. Really, we talk about the performance levels. Skilled, I've always described skilled as rock solid teaching. The district chose the word skilled. At the state level, they call it proficient. Really, proficient means skilled. So we talk about that rock solid teacher, so we ground ourselves in skilled, and then we have amazing conversations about how to coach that teacher more toward that accomplished or that distinguished level. So what does it look like at the rock solid level, and how can we coach that teacher up?
Okay. Another question I have, thinking about it when you brought up CTE, is how are we going to measure those classes? For example, the band class or the welding class or the ag class, all those different classes, are we going to be able to have some form of measurement, or those teachers just won't be eligible for the certification?
That's what we're getting ready to do, Debbie, is to do some research as to what instruments are out there that have a growth measure. Or do we have to create our own instrument and then go through a valid and reliability process, so that we have growth there. So that's why when Teresa says we're going to be rolling out, little by little, we have to be able to find something or create something and then go through the process of the validity.
Okay. And then how long do we anticipate that it would take for us to be able to offer it to all classroom teachers? And I know the CTE classes are going to take a little bit more work, but for like pre-K and kindergarten and first grade and all those teachers.
So we know that there are some assessments out there for like the primary grades. Teresa mentioned that, and we've already started looking at some of them. But as she said, we don't want to just throw it out there without having the teachers experience that. And so we will probably begin this next year with the primary piece and starting to unveil an assessment. But then we've got to, as I said, actively look for what else is out there and instruments to evaluate all the different special areas and the just different courses.
Remind about national board certification. It was still
A good reminder that national board certification is still an option while we are working through the process of finding these instruments to be able to evaluate our teachers and find those growth measures.
Is national board certification available to CTE teachers?
It is.
Okay. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Julie.
I really don't have any questions, just some comments. I am concerned that there is so much time and energy and effort and cost going into this program, but that it won't be sustainable with funding from the state. At the very earliest, there would be payout in 2024, but we may never even get to the point where we can roll it out to other teachers because the funding, another legislative session will possibly come and defund this. That I'm just concerned about the sustainability. I'm concerned about if there's a cap. I don't know if there's a cap on what's going to be paid out. Do we know if there's a cap?
Not right now.
Not right now. Okay. I'm concerned about. We're talking about having to hire people possibly to administer this program. I cannot imagine the number of people that TA has hired and the bureaucracy that has been created to back this program at that agency in Austin. I think that'd be really interesting to know. I feel that with the funds that are, if the state is flush with money to be able to fund this type of a program and to fund the bureaucracy that's going to be created to support it, it'd be great if they instead distributed those funds to districts and allowed us to compensate our teachers. We could give everybody a $5,000 bonus this year with the dollars that are going to be used for this, rather than making teachers jump through these hoops and having such a finite degree of eligibility. When you all shared that, you looked at 2018 data, and there were 700 teachers that could potentially be eligible, and 31% of them would have received additional compensation. That sounds great. It's 217 teachers, which that is great. That's great for those 217 teachers. But out of the 16 teachers that we have, that's 3%. I'm saying, but all of our teachers deserve to be recognized. Obviously, I mean, we have some that go above and beyond and they teach in challenging schools, but let us as the local school district reward those teachers and compensate them with apparently all these dollars that are in Austin that this bureaucracy has been created to distribute. I just wish that these resources, funds, and time and energy could be redirected into helping our students be successful and helping our teachers be successful in the classrooms instead of on all this. It's just my observation.
Very good. Some questions. This is not a new idea. We all know that there was a master teacher ladder, and it failed because too many teachers qualified at the mastery level, and there wasn't money to pay what the state promised. This concept is decades old. We know that there were issues in Atlanta, Georgia when it was rolled out. We know there were issues in Washington, D.C. when it was rolled out. Talk to me, and I can list, because I've studied it, what some of the negative side effects were in those two cities. In Atlanta, 5 teachers went to jail over because of this concept. What are some of the negative side effects that other districts who are farther along in the process have told us about? Or have they shared any with us?
I think because this really, a lot of districts are so early in this process, it's difficult with teacher incentive allotment to have a lot of that feedback from school districts. There are a lot of small districts that have implemented this, and teachers have actually received compensation. The session that I attended, I think the last one I attended was midwinter last year. It was virtual, and there was a teacher incentive allotment session. And they had a panel of representatives from school districts, and they were saying positive things. And again, I think it depends on the plan, because it can be so different in each district. It's not going to always look the same. So we don't have a lot of that. We know this is not a perfect plan. I do think there are going to be some challenges. I do think teachers, there are going to be some teachers that are not happy that they're not currently eligible. I mean, we recognize that. But again, I go back to just, how careful and thoughtful we're trying to be in the development and implementation of this so that we minimize the issues and problems with it. So, Dr. Henry, I don't know if
Tom,
you want to add.
just to add a couple of things. I'm not going to comment on this particular version of it, and I'm not going to call any names out, but there are a few of us in here that went through Career Ladder 30 years ago, and that was only a $1,500 merit increase or earned increase, and then a $3,000 if you made the master's level. Much smaller amount of money. And I know the problems it created in the district I was in at the time because the state did not provide enough funding. So if you figure just an average of $15,000 per teacher and multiply that by 400,000 teachers in the state of Texas that would be eligible, you're looking at $6 billion. Now, obviously, not everyone is going to get it, but my whole philosophical problem has been everyone should be able to get it if it's available. Not everyone's going to earn it, but I don't think it's going to be funded, and then I think it's going to create a lot of lack of cooperation among districts, among campuses, maybe even among neighboring teachers. That's what I observed 30 years ago. Hopefully I'll be wrong this time.
You know, those were some of the same comments. I knew many teachers who went through career ladder, achieved master, and then all of a sudden the money just wasn't there.
Never got the money.
And there was considerable bitterness. Now, they did not leave the profession, but there was bitterness over it. I have concern, just like you do, that this will create difficulties. I do like the national certification process. I did visit with the research team, the head of the research team that for a very large district analyzed the benefit of a certification on student attainment. And if that certification was in their area of teaching, it actually increased student attainment. So I'm glad that we've already kicked it off. Question. We have 100 teachers who are involved in that process along the path. Do we anticipate the second cohort will be same size, smaller, larger? What would we anticipate? What size of a cohort in that area would we be happy to see? i.e., what is our target?
Well, Mr. Jackson, we were very excited to have almost 200 teachers attend our information meeting this year, especially because it was in September. And we know how things were September 21. And of those teachers that attended, close to 100 signed up to be a part of our cohort. So we're hoping that now that there's more publicity for teacher incentive allotment, that we can double that number. We will definitely have more than 3 certified teachers going into the next year. So we will be able to support additional or as many teachers as possible that qualify to participate in the cohort.
Excellent. Glad to hear it. I share the same concern that has already been mentioned. One of the great strengths of this district is that we run a very tight ship administratively. But when you start adding layers of additional work and responsibility, it causes stress. And quite frankly, we're short people now. I have no doubt this will make us a little bit shorter.
I just, at least from my comments, I want to finish up. It's going to be a challenge. I'm not sure how successful it's going to be, but I want you to know I'm totally committed to giving it a shot, because maybe this will be the one that works. So I want to give our teachers every opportunity to benefit from this program.
When we talked about this in May, there were a couple of comments that I remember. One, we needed to do this from a competitive perspective. But it also does something else. It sends a message to our teachers that we will back you the best way we can. And right now, this is the best game in town to secure additional funding for our teachers. It's also the only game in town, but that's okay too. Let me understand a little bit more about the numbers. When you went back to 2018-19 data, you found I presume in the designated areas that we're going to start with, you found 700 teachers that might qualify, or was your universe 700 teachers?
The universe was 700.
Your universe was 700. 31% qualified for funding. Did y'all attack the numbers to break it down to see how much money that actually would have been for those 200 teachers?
We didn't look at the dollar amount. We just looked at the percentages in the different categories, just to have an overall idea.
Is there any reason to anticipate that 31% would be higher now or lower, or do we anticipate that it would be about the same?
I would like to see it higher. I think we're tightening up on a lot of our processes, so we should have additional teachers that have both components available to them. So I'm looking to see these numbers higher, but the state looks for around 31 to 33% teachers hitting one of those levels.
Well, that would tell me at least for some period of time, the state believes they have the funding at least for year one or maybe 2 years. One of the great strengths of this district is our team teaching approach and the fact that we have both vertical and horizontal components to it. Do we have concerns that if one teacher out of that team receives the stipend and the others do not, that is going to damage our team teaching, our team planning? Or do we anticipate that it will continue with everybody being happy that one person received $12,000 more than the rest of the individuals on that team?
We hope everybody's happy for each other, Mr. Jackson, but that is one of the challenges. That is one of the concerns that we have had. However, I say that, but as we are tightening our processes, as Dr. Claiborne shared, we're going to work towards helping teachers get to that point.
Just something I want to add, teachers, keep in mind, the money travels with teachers. We actually have a teacher at Cypress Park that earned a local designation at a charter school. And so that teacher is sitting on a team earning additional compensation already. So it's just going to naturally happen as more districts come on board and teachers move around, that you're going to have some earning that designation allotment and some that are not, unless we create a plan to try to help support them earning that.
This next question, I already know the answer, but it needs to be asked publicly. Teresa, we just finished blessing the board monitoring package, which basically are the goals for the district going forth. Have we included this in the board monitoring package?
Yes, sir. This is included in our target for teacher incentive allotment for the 21-22 school years, the submission of our application on April 15th.
Very good. I have no other questions. This is a major item, so I'm going to see if anybody has other questions that occurred to them while we were going around the dais.
I have one, Mr.
Yes,
Jackson.
sir. Go ahead.
So again, being in business and specifically around sales, money drives behavior. So is there any concern of teachers that are in an area that right now is not qualified to try to shift to an area that would and diminish our capabilities in one area?
I think that will absolutely happen. I think there'll may be some requests for teachers to change grade levels or content areas, but that's something that principals work with on a yearly basis as they're building master schedules and determining teacher assignments. They do that. They do that now, and the principals make that determination on grade and content assignments.
Yeah, where I was going was, I guess, to ask the question better, would it be an unnatural process were that to happen? What I hear is that there's an existing process, there's an existing behavior among teachers naturally where they move around in different grade levels. Although I suspect with this being implemented, it may become more aggressive.
That's possible. At the high school level, we had a lot of conversation. You have two content areas, Algebra 1 and English 2. But a lot of those teachers, I think, that teach in the upper content areas, teaching calculus and teaching some of those upper level math courses, maybe a couple will want to go down and teach Algebra 1, but many of them love their content area and what they're teaching. Yeah. But I do hear what you're saying. We did have that conversation. I do think it may increase some of those requests and processes for principals in making those assignments, and we're just going to have to help them and support them with those decisions.
Mr. Scanlon, though, I don't view that necessarily as a negative.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of areas we'd like for our grade levels and classes that we'd like our best teachers to teach that they may not, or they may do it now that we offer that incentive.
Okay, thank you, and I trust your perspective there.
Julie?
One question. I know the issues of, or the concepts of reliability and validity are critical in the implementation of this plan. With the timing of all STAR tests moving to online, do we feel confident in the reliability and validity of online STAR testing?
Of course she gives that one to me. It's what we have, and so once we see the state's data, then we'll be able to confirm that information. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, it was a little bit of a setup.
That's okay.
Good
answer. Right, that was a good answer.
And, you know, that's obviously a concern with any growth measure
For
that
sure.
we're going to see. And in regards to STAR, we are depending on the state to have actually addressed the validity and reliability of those assessments. But that is part of the challenge, is making sure that we have instruments that are going to demonstrate that.
So we may see how this goes over the next 2 years with STAR tests, if it's even a measure that that will be able to be used for TIA.
Right, and the state has already said you can use STAR as a pre-test, post-test measure. So they've already said you can use it for our teacher incentive allotment plan.
Okay, good. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Natalie?
Tom? Quick
Sure.
follow-up clarification. I saw earlier it said the national board fee was free if a teacher decides to do that certification. Is that correct? The state.
It's reimbursed to the teacher once they complete the process.
So they have to actually fork that money out of their own pocket first before they actually pay for it. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, and I believe $1,900, yeah. $1,900, however, they pay it in by every section. Dr. Gorey said there are 4 sections, and so you take the first section, you pay for it, and you take the second one, you pay for it. So you don't do it all at once.
Okay. Just might be a way if we can look at helping them with that. I've got some feedback from teachers that that's a little hard for them to do out of their pocket. So just if we can maybe find a way to maybe make that more palatable for teachers, that's a lot of money to fork out up front. So I'm not sure if we can do anything, but that might be a way if we can maybe onset that. So just an idea. But thank you.
Natalie?
Just a question, if it's different. I can't remember. I know we've run into, over the years, to Dr. Henry's point about PEG and when people get and don't get. But the point is that there is a criteria set and a whole team. There's no competition for the pot at a grade level. So the more we help each other, we all can earn this, correct? This could be a tool that does help. So there may be, like you're saying, already an existing teacher who comes in, some are earning, some are not. But there's no disincentive to work in a PLC with your colleagues because there's no way that they're taking money from your pot. Only all of you get your kids to grow and all of you have awesome performance in the classroom during the observation, then you all have the right to earn it, correct? No.
That's true. My problem, theoretically that's true. My problem is based on my experience. I saw that I qualified for Career Ladder, and then the next year Mr. Jackson qualified for the Career Ladder, but there was no more money, so even though he may have had a higher appraisal than me, he didn't get $1,500 or $3,000, and I did. My concern is that the state doesn't fund it, and some people get left without money. So that's my only concern. If they're going to fund everybody who can qualify, I'm all in.
Website, just with a small amount of systems that have already gone through the process. However, I will mention Dallas ISD is a large Texas example, but they were very far ahead in some of their measurements and stuff. However, of just the, already the state is spending, one second, it's a scrolling bar, so now it's left me, 1 second. 43 million, thank you for remembering numbers. 43 million was spent last year in the state of Texas. So it is the chicken and the egg. You have teachers getting dollars already and to the point neighboring systems, so we need to be able to compete. But yes, 43 million added up fast. So what was your?
We need to do it. Yeah. I'm not saying we don't need to do it. I'm just concerned what might occur in 5 years. But 5 years is 5 years from now.
And I was thinking if I'm at Bain Elementary teaching fourth grade ELA, maybe in 5 years at $28,000, I've paid off my mortgage, and then if it's, at least I've gotten progress. You know what I mean?
No further questions? Excellent. Admin, thank you for an excellent presentation. Board, let me thank you for thoughtful questions. Very important item. We thought it was important enough to put into our board monitoring package as something new. And I know we will continue to be updated on the progress of this. So that concludes the report section. And now we go to the following non-consensus action items that were moved to the consensus agenda during the board work session on Monday, March 7th, 2022. I'm going to give my eyes a little rest from the LED lights and ask my Vice President to cover 9A through 9E. Thank you.
The following non-consensus action items were moved to consensus during the board work session on Monday, March 7th, 2022. 9A, the board will consider approving the administration's recommendation for the 2022-2023 open-closed campus designations for student transfers. 9B, the board will consider approving the CenterPoint Energy Houston Electric, LLC, blanket utility easement to provide electrical service for the new Transportation Center Number 6, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the final terms and execute all related documents. 9C, the board will consider approving on first reading additions, revisions, or deletions to district policies. 9C1, CH Local, Purchasing and Acquisition Revise. 9C2, CHE, do I need to read all these?
Yes.
Okay, 9C2, CHE Local, Purchasing and Acquisition, Vendor Disclosures and Contracts, delete. 9C3, EFD Local, Instructional Resources, Field Trips, delete. 9C4, EHB Local, Curriculum Design, Special Programs, add. 9C5, EHB AA Local, Special Education, Identification, Evaluation, and Eligibility, add. 9C6, FMF Local, Student Activities, Contest and Competition, delete. 9D, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and/or authorizing purchase orders as recommended in the posted agenda item. 9D1, Layer 2 and 3 switches, E-rate. 9D2, library books, reference books, e-books, publications, and media supplies. 9D3, school buses. 9D4, wireless access points and switches, E-rate. 9E, the board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractors and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. 9E1, 2021 Bang, Emmett, and Hamilton Elementary School renovations. 9E2, 2021 Kirk and Reed Elementary School renovations. 9E3, 2021 baseball and softball field renovations, Bridgeland, Cy Park, and Cy Springs High Schools. 9E4, 2021 Cy Fair High School multi-site master plan, package 1. 9E5, 2022 Hancock Elementary School paving addition. 9E6, 2022 baseball and softball scoreboard replacements, infrastructure. 9E7, 2022 baseball and softball scoreboard replacements. 9E8, 2022 Bridgeland High School football field turf replacement. If any board member wishes to remove one or more of these items for further discussion, please do so at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended.
Thank you. I'll take over.
Excellent.
May I hear a motion to approve the consensus items as recommended or amended?
Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead. Go ahead. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Do I hear a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Now, it's open for discussion. Does anybody have questions? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is unanimous. The following non-consensus action item 9F, a level 4 appeal of a level 3 decision, remained on non-consensus. This agenda item was discussed in closed session pursuant to section 551.074 at the board work session on Monday, March 7th, 2022. If any board member wishes to discuss this item further in closed session, please signify at this time. If not, I will entertain a motion to uphold, rescind, or amend the decision made at the level 3 hearing. So first, does anybody want to further discuss this item in closed session? To the right or to the left? So is everybody prepared to vote? Everybody is prepared to vote. I will entertain a motion to uphold, rescind, or amend.
Mr. President, I move that the board uphold, rescind, or amend the decision made at the level 3 hearing.
We can't quite do
Oh,
that.
all three of them. I move that, sorry, that's what I get for reading. It is late, thank you. Mr. President, I move that the board uphold the decision made at the level 3 hearing.
A motion has been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. The motion is unanimous. And now we will proceed with the superintendent's briefing portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. Schools throughout the district joined the National Education Association in the annual Read Across America celebration the week of February 28th through March 4th. Readers visited campus libraries, and classrooms during the week, reading Dr. Seuss books to elementary students. March is designated as National Athletic Training Month. Thank you to our athletic trainers and student athletic trainers who cover more than 4,000 regular season games, practices, playoff games, and give extra time on the weekends to treat and help student athletes recover from injury. To encourage more families to take advantage of the healthy choices available with school breakfast, CFISD is celebrating the National School Breakfast Week, March 7th through 11th. Studies show that students who eat school breakfast are more likely to maintain a healthy weight, be more alert, and reach higher levels of achievement in reading and math. March is also designated as Music in Our Schools Month, Theater in Our Schools Month, and Youth Art Month. A time to raise awareness about the importance of fine arts and visual arts education. We know the importance that co-curricular programs like fine arts have on the education of a child and are proud of the high participation rate among our students. And what everybody's been waiting for, a reminder that next week, March 14th through 18th, is spring break in CFISD. The weather forecast looks great. All schools and facilities will be closed in case of an emergency. The CFISD Police Department may be contacted at 281-897-4337. And certainly I wish all of our students, employees, and community a happy, a safe, enjoyable, well-deserved spring break. Thank you, Mr. President.
Before we move to closed session, I would like to thank everyone for being here tonight or viewing this at home. Now, may I have a motion to move into closed session on agenda item 11A?
You beat me. Mr. Jackson, President Jackson, I move that we move into closed session to discuss the item.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, raise your right hand. We're in closed session.